I uploaded the wrong thing, but good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. Boy, did I snafu that one up. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good morning.
We've got Gary from Nerdrotic here. That's that voice you hear. That's right. Welcome back, Gary, to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Sipping a little coffee. Ready to talk about Luke Skywalker and other things. No, I'm happy to be here with Andre and Script Doctors. It's going to be fun.
Good morning. And we're happy to have you here, both you, Gary, and you, Script Doctor. Always a pleasure to be joined by both of you.
And that voice, of course, you hear is Andre. And welcome, Script Doctor, as Andre said as well, our fifth Beatle, as we like to call him from time to time. And since I got it loaded up now, why don't we just do this proper? Gary from Nerdrotic returns live to talk about the Hollywood Bailouts, Star Wars spin-offs, Boba Fett, and more here on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Now it feels proper. Okay. Let's get this party started. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As we introduced everybody here, welcome. Star Wars is dominating the news, as we were just saying there before I totally screwed up the intro. But since I put so much work in it, I figured I better show that. So there you go.
So yeah, and also greetings to everyone in the chat. I see that we have quite an international audience joining us today, from the UK to the former
Texas
Yugoslavia,
to
Texas and Tunisia. So many awesome places. So welcome everyone in the chat. We are so glad that you decided to make us part of your day. Of course, we're going to talk some Star Wars and many other things beyond that, some bailouts and what have you, that everyone has by now either seen the final episode of Mandalorian second season, or they've been spoiled already. So, Gary, what do you think about Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, an actor with the CGI Luke face came back and made a lot of people excited, and that is not a bad thing. That's my initial. But to me, it didn't move me at all. I've talked about it a couple times now, and I wish it did. I wish it did, Andre, because that was my guy. Luke was my guy from when I was 7 till, I don't know, 2018, whatever the date The Last Jedi came out. And that it severed my emotional connection to that franchise, at least as associated to Disney. So it's very hard for me to just jump back in, and it was a cool scene. And I think collectively the entire, well, I mean, not everybody, but a good portion, I would say most of the fandom was united and happy for a moment, and that is brilliant. And I think Disney can learn from that moment. It took them 8-9 years to get to that moment, to show the hero of generations respect instead of downgrading him. Now there is arguments that that's Jake Skywalker, and till I see different, it kind of is. I mean, that's the Luke Skywalker that's going to be in The Last Jedi until Disney comes out and says this is a different path. Like, we're going on a different path with this show. I wish they kind of would say that, to be honest with you, and save a lot of people a lot of trouble, because the reason they're not saying that is because they're keeping all of their options open. And I still think they're going directly towards The Force Awakens and the building of the First Order, because they hinted to it in the actual episode. But I'm going to try to keep my mind open, even though I wasn't moved. Yeah, I'm a cold bastard. But like,
but Disney made you that.
Yeah, they earned it. It sucks. No, I'm not happy about this at all.
That's sadly the only thing they have earned at this point.
Yeah. And they, I don't know how much of it was actually earned. The fans made this moment. The fans made this moment. Disney did something very simple that they could have done 8 years ago. 8 years ago. And after all don't forget, this is the company that actually helped push a narrative that alt-right bots or whatever were controlling us YouTubers to influence you to somehow downvote a film.
Yeah, it was Russian alt-right bots. Vladimir sent us all. It's like that was so
that brought the
hilarious.
Fandom Menace together, that was used to bring the Fandom Menace together, and it was actually just a very few small amount of people that didn't like that movie, and everybody else absolutely loved it. Which, you know, this moment proved that was absolute BS. Everybody hated The Last Jedi, and well, that shows it. And so Disney can take this moment now. This is their time. This is your moment, Disney, to run with this. And you know what? Like, ignore the people who are calling it fan service. That part doesn't bother me at all. I think the fans were due some service. Service the fans and make them happy. I don't know where you go from here, and we can all talk about that. But the bottom line is I am bummed. I wasn't moved by it, but I'm going to be honest with you. If it was Mark Hamill, probably would have been different for me, but it wasn't Mark Hamill.
I mean, it was, but it was. I mean, it's his voice.
Not his body.
No,
Not
I know what
his
you mean.
body, not his. I mean, like, yeah, they're getting you set up to recast Luke Skywalker, and that's Disney's Luke Skywalker. It'll be Disney's Luke Skywalker now. Whatever path they take him on from here, you know, there's already a rumor that there's a show. I mean, that's come on.
That's a bit out there. But then again, I look at how drastically wrong I was about Boba Fett. So,
Well,
yeah.
not entirely. You weren't entirely. Let's give you some credit where credit is due, Tom. You did think that Boba Fett was going to die last week, and
let's not go macabre
ironic
here.
way.
I thought he was gonna die too. I thought he was going to die too. I was right there with you. I thought they were going to like slap his armor on May and freaking call it. I don't know what would be Boba Fetta.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fennec. Yeah.
Boba Fett.
No, they're going to have two shows with guys with masks on. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of that's actually a pretty good segue into the news that I was expecting, and I think this was just posted. I know Script Doctor just sent this to me, and of course I boomered it again and didn't share the audio. But we basically got confirmation from Favreau himself that there is going to be a Mandalorian season 3, and the Boba Fett thing is its own series. So here's that real quick.
So they let me keep this one a secret. So this is actually separate from the Mandalorian season 3. But what we didn't say in that announcement is that the next show coming up, Kathy said the next chapter, and that's going to be the Book of Boba Fett. And then we go into production right after that on season 3 of the Mandalorian. Back with the main character that we all have known and loved.
Main character. Isn't that weird that he didn't say Pedro?
Very strategic. Could be strategic. I will not rule out that there is something to Grace Randall's reporting there, because it echoes some of the stuff that we've heard, although we don't know any further details. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah.
But dominate. Star Wars is dominating right now. I mean, honestly, they got most everybody back with that moment. I mean, like, let's not mince words. It's already been done. Like, that little moment got a lot of people back. Not everybody. I know a lot of you out there are beautiful, smart people. Most of you are. I'm not even saying I'm smart, because I'm probably not. But I think with that moment, a lot of people came back. I think that was it. That's all it took.
And you know what's so interesting about it? That's all that was required. No more was required. You just had to treat the characters with a little bit of respect, and a lot can be done.
Yeah, I think that's what's most interesting about that JJ treatment, alleged treatment, whatever you want to call it, that we actually did a video about this morning, and Doomcock did, I think last week it was, or this weekend. Have you had a chance to dig into that at all, Gary?
No, I have not. Please, if you can, quickly.
Well, the main rundown was it was posted years ago on Imager, and it's been sitting there, and Ichibaka found it, and I think it's legit. There's enough evidence supporting that it's legit, and what it is it's the infamous treatment that JJ would have done, that Simon Pegg and Daisy Ridley and others have talked about, that got tossed out in favor of Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. And it's not perfect by any means, obviously. It's full of JJ-isms. But one thing it does do right is the way it treats Luke Skywalker. And it actually it explains why Rey is so OP in The Force Awakens and some other stuff. So like it may not have been good, but it would have been better than what we got.
Yeah.
So it's ironic. And then the outside of just like the physical evidence, the one thing that sticks out to me is just how things thematically and certain elements that are in that treatment we did get in The Rise of Skywalker. So I mean, it adds more legitimacy to it on top of everything else.
Yeah, indeed. And what I liked about it, and this is coming from someone who traditionally isn't even a Star Wars fan, is that, you know, that scene in The Last Jedi in the beginning when Rey is there on the mountaintop and she gives him the lightsaber and he just looks at it and tosses it over his shoulder, right? That was all Ryan subverting expectations. In the original treatment, he accepts the lightsaber, looks at it with reverence, and basically says, "Yeah,
where did you get this?" I think that was the line.
Yeah, something like that. And then we also learn why she was so super duper powerful, and why she was able to beat Kylo Ren with the lightsaber first time she ever tried it. Well, because she had help. She had Force radio controlling from Luke Skywalker himself, who was there, literally in spirit, guiding her hand. That would have been revealed in the original episode.
And that kind of echoes into Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates script, too, with all the Jedi being there at the end, right, script?
I think that kind of does. I mean, the logic behind it is that it's basically kind of like Driver's Ed, where the Force is the car, but the Jedi teacher is in the seat next to you with his own steering wheel and brake, and he just helps you kind of guide along the road, and that's what he did from the Force for Rey. And that was an interesting idea, I felt. I
think there's like this bit where he's like talking to all the other Jedi and stuff in that treatment, if I remember right, if I was reading it correctly.
I have to go back. It's been a year since I've read the script, but I think you're.
I'm talking about in this new treatment. Plus, that I know in that other treatment, it's at the end, instead of her just saying "I'm all the Jedi actually showed up in Trevorrow's treatment, including like Qui-Gon and all that shit.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, that would have been better. Honestly, showing Luke respect would have been enough for me. I'm not the biggest fan of JJ, and I didn't think The Force Awakens was a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely wasn't The Last Jedi. It left things open enough for me to be interested. And I remember seeing the trailer for, The Last Jedi and being excited. I'm like, that looks pretty cool, My investment in Star Wars was very open-minded at that point because I thought Kathleen Kennedy was the right person. I was excited to hear that. I just everything associated with her at the time was associated with Steven Spielberg and blah blah blah. So I was ready, and that's after I saw that. Ooh man, and that was I didn't know anything going in The Last Jedi. I know there was people who were already saying stuff prior to the film, but I didn't know anything going into that movie. I just went in pretty raw, expecting to see something built on from The Force Awakens. So when I saw that happening to Luke, I'm like, whoa, no. And when I walked out, I'm like, I'm just done. I don't even want to talk about this anymore. This is stupid. and I didn't for a long time, and focused on other things, and it was fine. It got completely severed, and it's hard to explain. It depends on what kind of Star Wars fan you are. If you're new, or a lot of the OG fans, some are happy, some aren't. Some are never going to be happy, and you can't blame them. Like you said, Disney's earned all of this speculation, but I think a lot of it has gone away. I really do.
And I'm kind of like where you're at, Gary. I mean, I was riveted through the whole scene to take it back to Mandalorian and the Luke business.
Yeah.
I mean, I was riveted through the whole scene, and I kind of knew it was, but I'm like, no, they're making it way too obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be somebody we don't expect because they're making it too obvious that it's Luke. So I'm like, it's going to end up being Leia or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, of course, it ended up being Luke, and then it was the Uncanny Valley crap. And again, my head scratching, going, why didn't they just use deepfake? Because the deepfake looks so much better. And I think I figured out today what it was that is so much better about deepfake as opposed to this whatever technology they're using to put people's faces on. Because it's the same tech they used for Tarkin and Leia.
And
it
also
wasn't
in the
good
Marvel
done. They
films.
should,
Yeah.
they should just have like hired Shamook or someone else to do a deep fake. I agree completely.
Well, and here's what I think I figured it out today. What it is, because somebody actually did a deep fake on Luke, and the mouth sucks. But the mouth only sucks. Why? Because of the original CGI. That I can tell you. But what looks different in that deep fake and what's different about it and why it works is because there's life in it. Because whoever did that took took and fed the AI or the whatever you call it that does the deep faking. Return of the Jedi is what they did.
Yeah,
And
that was
so
Shamook. He's the one Disney should have
is
hired.
he the one who did it? And that's where the life comes from. That's where it is, because you're actually having an actual life mask over a person instead of it being an animated fake thing. So that just that it's that problem we have with like things like the Zemeckis movies. He keeps making the animated ones, Polar Express and all that shit.
Well, he stopped making them now, hasn't he?
After Mars Needs Moms, right?
I think that was the last one, and that cost Disney so much money.
Oh God!
I think that's still one of the biggest flops, if not the biggest flop of all time, considering how much it cost compared to what it made.
Yeah, it's right up there on the list. I don't have the list of.
I did a list years ago, and it was like number 2 or 1. I can't remember now.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it was so bad it retroactively destroyed John Carter of Mars. So,
yeah,
which I loved. Well, I liked the John Carter movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all.
That was pretty cool.
I think it was a wasted opportunity, miscast.
Well, it's casting aside, it was just poorly marketed.
Nerdrotic would disagree with you. I don't know if I would.
She's welcome to, but I think it had the wrong director. Should have been Robert Rodriguez. See what I mean? Fantastic for that. Gone all out Frazetta in the imagery.
Yes.
Yeah,
because that's what he wanted to do. When Rodriguez was filming that, he wanted to do it just like the Frazetta covers.
Oh, speaking of Rodriguez, that was one thing that wasn't mentioned in the Favreau deal. Robert Rodriguez is going to be one of the showrunners on the Boba Fett limited series.
How awesome is that?
Oh, that's great.
That's good news. I'd love to see. It's nice to see him back working again.
One step closer to getting Tarantino into the Star Wars universe.
Oh,
maybe. Robert Rodriguez is working. He's just doing his own little things right now. He did the We Can Be Heroes thing on Netflix. He's been working on that for a year and a bit. He's got a couple other projects he's doing, which I think one he's being strong-armed by family to do.
You mean the Zora instead of Zorro? No, I think that's his sister, and he's just putting his name on it to be nice. Zora, a modern day SJW.
His mama probably said she would beat his ass if he didn't do it.
Probably. He's one of my favorite directors, though. I love
him. Amazing.
Yep.
Oh, El Mariachi is a fantastic, fun film.
Absolutely.
They've. I have to say that they have. I'm amazed with the high-profile directors they have gotten for this series. I mean, these are like many feature film directors here that agreed to do this series, and it's really benefited from it.
Well, look at it this way. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
Sorry, I just said they're not messing around anymore. I mean, like Disney's in debt. They're living off of borrowed money. Parks are closed. Theaters are closed. And this is their. For some reason, they prefer Star Wars over Marvel, even though Marvel's been more successful, and maybe they think it's got more legs or something. And they're putting absolutely everything into it. They're not messing around with. I mean, they're throwing out some projects to. I don't know. It looks like they're trying to compartmentalize their SJWism. Like they're going to keep it. It's not going anywhere. They're going to put it in certain projects.
I think there's 2 reasons why they focus more on, or seemingly focus more on, Star Wars right now. One is that the Marvel investment that's already paid off many, many times over. Plus, I think that they know that they've already gone as high as they can go with it, and at this point they have to reinvent it. They have to take something that has been massively successful, that many appear to have moved on from, and now they need to reinvent it. Whereas Star Wars, for one thing, it's an investment that has not paid for itself yet. So they have an incentive to make it profitable just there. So that's one thing. The other is that, unlike Marvel, it hasn't peaked. On the contrary, it's been crashing and burning quite a bit. So here they have a bigger upside. If they're able to reactivate the fans there and get them back again. And that may be easier to bring back someone that, ironically, someone that's scorned than someone that's fed up. It's just my speculation. I don't know if there's something to it, but that would be what I think.
And going back to what I was going to say about the whole directors thing is I think it's a lot easier to get somebody like a Robert Rodriguez or what have you on board to do something like this than it is to do one of the movies, because even Kathy said it herself in that stupid interview that, we've had a lot of people come in and we're so excited, and then they realize how much it is to get into, and they run screaming in so many words. And of course, that's Benioff and Weiss, and maybe even Rian Johnson. We think he may not be, he may have been fired, but who's to say that he just didn't, he couldn't take the fucking heat? You know what I mean? Who's to say he didn't decide, no, I don't want to do this,
Point. I mean, it kind of looks like he can't take the heat. Look at his act on Twitter.
Exactly my point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's probably a daunting project, and it will be a daunting project, but they're going to take it on. And listen, it's cool. I love that the fandom had that moment. I do. And there's somebody who I'm not going to put him on blast. There's somebody who DM'd me, and this is a person who has said, he's actually criticized me for because I pay for Disney Plus. I don't rip it off. I pay for it. But I write it off. And that person has criticized me in the past, and then they come back and tell me they were crying at the Luke Skywalker. So it's all right. I mean, that's what fandom's supposed to be, and Disney remembered, at least for a moment. There's a lot of people saying it's a trap, and it might be, I think Disney's going to keep all of their options open. As far as outright erasing everything, they don't need to do that right now. Right now they've got enough people. This thing is the hottest show out there, and with there's not much out there, and they can kick the can down the road for years. Around in this universe, and that's I think what they're going to do. And through that process, I think if they maintain the quality, well, some people will debate it, but The Mandalorian is the best thing they've done. Period. So if they maintain that, I think it'll be fine. I think they're going to pretty much get a good portion of their audience back, and they will have succeeded in saving Star Wars. I'm skeptical, but there's a road. It's possible.
They're on that road though, and they've taken a very important step on it. But as you say though, in terms of erasing stuff, they can indeed kick that can down the roads, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do, especially as long as Kathleen Kennedy is still in the building. But give it time. Give it a few years of building a successful, or presumably successful, new Star Wars around The Mandalorian. And give it time, have people move on. There's no reason why they should want to stick around with it or be bound by that any longer. I mean, just consider how The Rise of Skywalker went out of its way to undo many things in The Last Jedi, which was just 2 years before.
Yeah. But I mean, but Rey was still there. I mean, it's a point in the future where anybody's going to accept Rey as she is right now.
No, and I think that's the point we make in our mini documentary we did, or whatever you want to call it, is that, everything we've seen announced, none of it has anything to do with that era. None of those characters, you remember all the rumors about a Rose Tico series? Where the fuck's that?
Yeah, it's all dead and gone.
Exactly. No, we're not going to see. I think we're right. They may not necessarily erase everything, but they're never going to go back to this era again. Now, that's not going to fix everything, but it is a step in the right direction to a point. Because I got to keep reminding people like Doomcock and stuff too. It's using the Veil of the Force or whatever you want to call it, because I guess that's not what they refer to it as in the show, but using that or whatever to reset the sequels. We always forget, everything is a tool can also be used as a weapon, just like, Genesis in Star Trek. very easily to get rid of the prequels and the original trilogy just as easy with the same tool. So we got to be careful for what we wish for, you know. And
Yeah, because if they do it once, another writer down the line will come back and do it, and it might be a Rian Johnson type thing where it's like, oh, we'll just go back to before where Anakin was on the desert planet and then do a John Connor in Terminator Dark Fate.
I doubt that the future Rian Johnson will be able to do worse than this Rian Johnson, though.
Never underestimate how low Hollywood can go, though.
And Ryan says, you know, like what Rogue Squadron is set after the sequel trilogy, but we don't know yet if it's going to really have anything to do with any of the characters in it, probably. And I don't know anything about it, really. So if you know more about it, Ryan, I'll have to ask you about it later.
I don't even know that we know for sure that it's set after the sequel trilogy. Haven't they not been very vague, said that it goes forward, and the rest is assumptions that people make?
I
don't know. If Ryan has some like confirmed info, that might be something, but he can DM
read here. See, so when I did my reaction I just did it purely to the video. I watched 3 hours plus, and my soul was sucked out, and I didn't.
I can imagine.
I didn't want to invest in Disney after that. Yeah, right. But there was a couple of interviews, or a lot of interviews afterwards, and Patty Jenkins and Kathleen Kennedy confirmed that this is a new generation of heroes moving things forward. I guess that's up to interpretation.
Exactly. That's my point. It's up to interpretation exactly because it could be a new generation set in between. It could be in the future from Return of the Jedi, and it could be in the future from Rise of Skywalker. We don't know because they've been vague about it. What is certain, though, it's a new generation, so we won't revisit any characters that we've seen before, not even the sequel to the characters. Because if they were, you can rest assured that would have been highlighted.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they would have mentioned it in the video. I mean, they were really vague there. And maybe because I didn't watch it live, Kathleen Kennedy was leading into trailers that never happened. She thought, here's a look at Lando, and then it just goes right into her next announcement. So,
well, here's what happened, Gary, is when it was live, they showed it. The one side you could see something, and then when they would flip to the trailers, 9 times out of 10, it was only being shown to certain people that had certain access to it. So you just get a little timer countdown. So the one you probably saw was just chopping them bits out, I would imagine.
Yeah,
because we were watching it live for like 4 hours almost. It was crazy.
One thing to note about the Rogue Squadron movie is that Patty Jenkins went to the old school X-Wing, and the silhouette in the Rogue Squadron is an old school X-Wing. It's not the new school X-Wing.
That's what I thought too, because the new school one has the blue on it, right? The one that's in
It has the new. Well, basically the intake cylinders that are on each wing are half the size on the new school on the sequel trilogy.
Right, and that's
25% different.
That's the one they have in Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
Disneyland, yeah.
But the one on those silhouettes, that's the full size. So we don't know yet. We don't know.
Yeah. On that note of we don't know, let's hear what you guys have to say in the chat. And since that flies by so quickly, let's see what you have to say in super chats. And Dark King 616 started us off saying, "I think Cecil and the Critical Drinker got into the writing room of The Mandalorian and named the child after their alma mater, Grog U." So yeah, there you go, Grog University, nice one. And then we got super stickers from Roger Haynes, Mr. Tickle Trunk, and Kip Ellis, who sent us a thumbs up, a little doggy and a unicorn respectively. So thanks for that. Well, Stephen Otten says, "Hail to everyone in the chat. Loved the Mandalorian finale. Seeing the real Luke Skywalker again gave me back a piece of my childhood." While Culture Could See No sent another super sticker, so thanks for that. And Malik the Wild Man says, "Has someone explained why J.J. Abrams left the Star Wars trilogy midway, which he seeked out through his Star Trek movies?"
Yeah, his version of the story is they offered him the entire trilogy, and he said no because he didn't want to be sucked into it for 6 years or 5 years or whatever the hell it was. And then they basically begged him to come back.
Yeah, so if he only had stayed there the whole time, we wouldn't be in this mess. We'd be in another mess, but not quite this one. And then Matt G says, I would be enraged that we could have gotten an episode 8 with Ahsoka. But in the past year, episode 9, cameo, CW, Mando, it's been Ahsoka mania. So I'm a bit calmer. Yeah, and you still have the Ahsoka series coming with Rosario Dawson. So yeah, good times coming. And then Culture Casino has a comment for Matt G saying, you were close to seeing that which you would have objected to. So, yeah. And then we have...
I think he's implying that there was a few... He heard there was a few different versions of the possible outcomes of Mandalorian, I guess. So...
Yeah. And then we have Mihon that said Swedish 20 Swedish krona and some Swedish gibberish that I'm going to read out. So everyone, I'm not going to call for Cthulhu right now. I'm just going to butcher the Swedish language. Kommer Ezra vara med I Ahsoka-serien? Which means, will Ezra be part of the Ahsoka series? Gentlemen, what do you think?
Gary?
I mean, why not, really?
As far as the Ahsoka series, sorry, I was reading, looking up that statement. Could you repeat that again? My bad.
The question?
Yeah.
No, the question was if will Ezra be part of the Ahsoka series?
Yes. I think so.
Probably.
I mean, that was their mission at the end of Rebels. I mean, they were...
Honestly, I thought that was going to be instead of Luke at the end of this episode.
They my guess is they probably thought of that first and then realized nobody would know who Ezra is, other than like hardcore Star Wars fans who watch Rebels.
No, and you're right.
Would be all like, who is this guy? So
no, and you're right. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with Mandalorian season 2 is that unless you are familiar with these characters, either A, you are not going to get any excitement out of it, or B, if you are, you've already noticed some of the flaws that some people have pointed out to me that I didn't know about, like with the whole Darksaber business and stuff like that. So,
as someone completely unfamiliar, I don't even know who Ezra is. I have to be serious.
From Rebels.
yeah,
which I've never seen and never will see. But so I was one of those that kind of came into the Mandalorian, and I didn't know the characters that were from Rebels and the animated series and what have you not. All I saw was this is pretty cool. I enjoy the Mandalorian as a whole, so I don't think that's going to detract anything. It certainly didn't for me. I kind of get that this is a character I'm probably supposed to be excited about. I'm not, but if the fans, which are far more hardcore fans than myself, are, then all is good. It doesn't detract anything from it for me. So if you can do something in there that the fans like without it detracting from it, perfect. Go for it. That's my point of view to it.
Yeah.
As someone that is a fan of the Mandalorian.
Greg Lost Jedi wants Ezra Miller as Ezra. Well, here's his audition tape.
Learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal?
There you go. There you go.
good job.
And moving on from that, Deef sent...
Well, they fight. That's in every script, right? No, sorry.
Deef sends $5 Canadian for you, Gary, saying you should invite Bill Whittle onto your show to do a Star Trek live stream.
Sure.
Yeah. And Gojira Star 5477 says, is there any truth to the rumor that Rian Johnson is co-writing Rogue Squadron with Patty Jenkins?
I haven't heard nothing to confirm that, and I doubt it. That's not directing now, is it? That's not a trilogy.
And why would they keep that secret? Like, why? I mean,
yeah, you would think they would boast that. Exactly, Greg.
Exactly.
Gary. Yeah. I don't think so. But what we have heard about that, little birdie was telling me, is that George Lucas might be writing on that or some other project right now. Possibly.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That would see that. I would shout that to the, what is it? What are you supposed to say? The four winds or from the rooftops or whatever.
From the rooftops.
I would be screaming that one left and right. And you would just, at this time, that would be like, it'd be like a big Star Wars orgy. For most people, I think. I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't say that one either. I don't know why they wouldn't say we're on a new path either. They're probably just trying to keep the Brian Youngs of the world. I mean, who cares what freaking Brian Young
I
says?
can understand why they wouldn't say the latter, but yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah. I think they're learning maybe through Gina Carano that they don't have to listen to a certain amount of people. But the problem is that certain amount of people, the blue check marks on Twitter, a lot of them work in the building at Lucasfilm. So that's why.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, it's not like they're gone. If you see like Pablo Hidalgo hitting the road and other people and Kathleen Kennedy, yeah, okay, sure, things are going to turn around. I just be skeptical. That's all. I mean, you want to have fun, but don't. Yeah, 5 years down the road, I don't want to see like a repeat of Game of Thrones, where that big culminating event is the Palpatine coming out and we're gonna start the First Order.
Yeah,
you can hear the groan. Oh my god, it'd be terrible.
Unless he gets killed immediately after, right?
Speaking of KK, can I address something real quick, Andre? Since we've got almost 2,000 people watching, please hit that like button. We'd appreciate that. And good God, Gary, you bring in the masses. Look, I've seen a lot of people comment on this on one of our last videos, not our last video, but the video before about Kathleen Kennedy. Yes, she is an executive producer on The Mandalorian. And as I've pointed out many times, as she must take the brunt for a lot of the failures, she will get, a lot of the accolades for the success. But as far as when I don't know what, I counted 30, 40 people saying, well, she's the executive producer. You must not know what a producer does. Oh, yes, we do know what a producer does, but some of these people evidently don't know what an executive producer does. Script, tell them what an executive producer generally does.
It's in a spectrum of crazy jobs. Sometimes they don't do anything. Sometimes they just get the money. Sometimes they co-write on the scripts. Sometimes they're just in the building and sign the checks. It's a whole
what generally
series.
happens though if you're the head of the studio, or in this case, Lucasfilm?
If you're the head of the studio, you're always given an executive producer credit on
exactly.
everything you do.
or you financed it, right? Isn't that? I mean, Hollywood was bankrolled on getting rich.
I have heard famous stories of Gary, and I'm sure you've heard similar stories where people have just gotten executive producer credit for just introducing somebody to somebody, for making a phone call, or just like saying, you owe me one and I want to get paid, or they owe somebody money like their bookie. So that person's now their executive producer. So they get paid. Like, I'm not
strongly recommend everybody watch the movie The Kid Stays in the Picture. It's about executive producers.
Great fucking movie. Yes.
Just check it out.
Actually,
it's a wonderful documentary. It gives you a great insight. A lot of those practices you'll see in that documentary are still done today. It's a great eye-opening experience. Please go seek out that film and watch it.
Think like Russian oil tycoon who's always just been a fan of Hollywood, who it doesn't know good from bad, will support any movie. Dino De Laurentiis, I know he's not Russian, and just buys their way into Hollywood. That's a lot of what executive producers do. They get suckered by producers who are very good at their jobs, and maybe that's what Kathleen Kennedy's good at, like just extracting money from people.
Well, getting things done, she's really good at. Like, if you need to mitigate an issue, or like get an actor or someone on set, or maybe say temper a swordsman who spent days practicing a fight that he was going to do with Harrison Ford, and then told later that he's just going to be shot. That's Kathleen Kennedy. She's very good at reconciling those issues. On the creative side of things, well, we've seen examples of that over the last 6 years.
Well, not just that, we've even heard her peers and people she works with, like Spielberg himself, point out, like, she's the one in the room who says, well, what if she doesn't get the girl? What instead he gets the dog? It's like that what the
and that's where you have to snap your fingers a couple times and be like, pay attention, Kathy.
She'll say stupid things that they'll reject, but that generates other ideas in them. And on that thing about executive producer, just a couple of weeks back, we had an interview with Fredrik Malmberg, who is the owner of Cabinet Entertainment, and through that, the ultimate owner of Conan the Barbarian. And he said also in the interview that if you go and you look him up at the IMDb, he has 27 producer credits. And in reality, all he had done for the overwhelming majority of those 27 movies was help secure funding. And then he kind of implied that he hadn't even seen all of those movies and had nothing to do with them. And on some, he was one of 27 producers. So yeah, that role really doesn't matter so much.
No, I have a producer credit for Geeks and Gamers on IMDb for some reason. I am the producer of Geeks and Gamers. Do what I say, Jeremy.
I know he produces stuff on here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
According to IMDb.
And you guys do stuff for me too.
I do.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really do. It takes a little work off my hands.
Oh, awesome!
Bullshit. I know that.
I haven't looked at my IMDb profiling yet. See who else shows I'm producing.
He's making them. I don't know who it is, but yeah.
Well,
I kind of have an idea, but I'm not going to get into it on here.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty awesome anyway. So yeah, I'm most appreciative. So that's cool. But yeah, let's move on with a couple of more super chats before we go on to the next topic of the day. Now, after that, we had 200 Watt Studio that says, "I'm so sorry, Gary. I honestly was emotional, but Jake was in the back of my mind. I chose to be in the moment. JJ, Ryan, and KK should be ashamed." And I guess you know what he's talking about, Gary. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a wonderful moment for a lot of people, and I do not want to piss on that at all. And maybe I should just make a video on it. Like, I think it was genuinely cool as hell to watch that many people. That's why when I opened FNT, that thing as shared in our DM, Tom, that was cool with the crowd cheer. I mean, because that's what it was. That was that moment, and don't ever let take that away from you. And I that happened to me, and yeah, that's on me, but. I mean, that's what happens when you sever a connection. Like I when I was a kid, I was running around with a fake sword. I was Luke Skywalker. I dressed.
That was you.
Black. That was me. No, all the time. I mean, it was because as a kid, I dressed in black all the time to be Luke Skywalker. I mean, that's was my thing.
Me too, man. We all did it as a kid, man. Like we all ran around the block. You know, you had your mom's fucking broom with the broom screwed off, and then you ran around in your black sweatpants and your black sweatshirt, and I'm Luke Skywalker, and if you had a green broom, even better.
Even better. Mine was the yellow. Oh boy, that was prophetic. But yeah.
And then the rich kid always had the cool fucking actual licensed lightsaber toy.
They had the real lightsaber toy, and they'd always show it off, and they had all the game consoles too, and I was there with a broomstick, a crappy bike. So
what I will say about that moment, like I never played any Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker meant nothing to me when I was a kid because I wasn't aware of him really before I was like in my late teens when it was too late to be.
No, but I gotta imagine you did have something, yeah.
But that moment, I was like thinking, have I become invested over the course of the last year? Because that actually brought tears to my eyes, like seeing Luke Skywalker there, like seeing like the X-Men coming. Okay, wonder who this is, because I don't associate. I'm not fan enough that I recognize X-Wing equals Luke Skywalker. I didn't know until I saw the show, like, oh shit, that's.
Or you didn't know to recognize it was Red 5, yeah.
What the hell's a Red 5?
That's his ship.
Okay, there you go. But anyway, point is then that. That honestly brought like tears to my eyes, just that moment. And I'm not even a Star Wars fan traditionally. Like maybe I am now. If anything, that moment made me one, a very casual one. Like I'm a fan of the Mandalorian first and foremost. But that was the power of that scene.
Right. But I gotta imagine, like even not Star Wars related. Like when I was a kid, all these things kind of touched me in a way, like. They touched me. No, like even right after seeing Ghostbusters, I remember going out in the middle of the fucking night with my mom's fucking shop vac attached to my back, knocking on the neighbor's door, asking if they had any fucking ghosts to bust.
Hey, you got any ghosts to bust?
I did.
I'm here to bust some ghosts. You know why that scene? That scene was built to work emotionally because it's a straight up old school superhero scene. Everybody, everybody you're invested in is in imminent danger and you actually believe it, and then the hero comes in and saves the day. All the stuff that the Brian Youngs of the world have been crapping on, saying traditional storytelling is dead, it's patriarchy, blah blah blah. And guess what? You rolled out the most patriarchal white man comes in and saves all the people of color. I mean, it should piss everybody off, and everybody was happy. You see, because nobody cared, because we like Luke Skywalker. Doesn't matter. And if you know what, doesn't matter what if you build up a hero, doesn't matter what he or she looks like. If you take the time to build up that hero, you'll get the same effect. It doesn't matter. We don't see the world like that. That's what the best part of that scene was. That we think about identity politics, intersectional feminism, none of that crap. Disney remembered to do their job and put smiles on people's faces.
Well, a hero isn't its shell, it's their actions. And that's the thing that a lot of these newer writers don't quite understand is we love the heroes, not because of what they look like. I mean, granted, their costumes could be cool or what have you, but what keeps us wanting to see more of them is their actions, their behavior, their choices, who they are at their core, because that's where an audience relates to them.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. You mean connecting on like a human level?
Yes, as if there's like social interaction. That's such a foreign concept these days.
What? Yeah. No, it's if they keep doing that, sure. I mean, I guess there's a path of redemption for. I mean, Star Wars is clearly in better shape than Star Trek and Doctor Who. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And everything else. So why not?
Yeah, indeed. Before we take a moment and transition to the next topic, I want to address two more super chats, and one of them actually has a great transition. Silver Nova says, "Great to see Gary on the show. P.S. The only bailout Hollywood should receive at present is to be bailed out of the airlock." While Mark C says, "I think if we give Hollywood studios a bailout, we get something for our money. For instance, if CBS Viacom takes cash, we get Star Trek." Before following up with, "My point being, studios are forced to put an IP into public domain." And on that transition, Gary, so how are things with the bailout?
It's a certainty, folks. And they just passed the the stimulus package for us. I think it's $600, $1,200 check, something like that. Sure, it's going to take care of everybody. And the next thing will be $1 trillion, upwards $1 trillion bailout for. And in that bailout, Hollywood will be buried in that, along with theaters and stuff, and there'll be a lot of good surrounding it. I mean, I would like people to just be allowed to work, personally. I think if we were allowed to work, we can make our own money and we wouldn't need to print. I don't know if you know this, Andre, upwards of a quarter of all the cash money in the United States right now has been printed in the last calendar year. And I know
I'm aware. The Fed has been working overtime and enriched itself immensely in the process. The Fed, which is privately owned and not part of the U.S. state, I might add.
That's right. They are paid to print money.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is going to be valueless very soon unless you hold like actual property or something like that. And that's what I'd highly recommend if you can do that. So that bailout's going to come, and it also came in the tune of making them essential. And I think that was just that was an olive branch from Chairman Gavin Newsom here in California, because the theaters are going to be closed. They're going to be closed for the entire year. If they are open, it'll be floating between 25% capacity, 50% capacity for the rest of the year until, well, I mean, I don't want to get into the coof, but I mean, we are already seeing that there's already big changes coming, and they have been preparing us for a long time. You got to listen. You listen to what they say, but watch their actions. See and Hollywood, these big companies, they know stuff before we do. So when you see Warner Brothers screwed Hollywood, but they also sent us a giant message of what our life is going to be for the next year, which is limited capacity. So they're going to get this big old bailout, and they can fund whatever you saw Disney announcing there. It'll partially fund that for sure. It'll fund the streaming wars. It'll fund, and these are things that these streaming networks are not going to be profitable. None of them are. They have billions into these things. And part of the reason is Netflix owns the patents for most of it, so they're having to work around it. And that's why a lot of them hire Netflix people to help build their streaming services, including my friend who was a co-host on my show who worked on Disney Plus back in 2014 and 15. That's how long they've been putting this thing together. And once they get bailed out, small business being absolutely decimated right now. And we will be forced to sit in our homes and enjoy the stuff that we paid for while we pay for it again. And, should you be resentful? Yeah, I think you should. The Hollywood was they participated in getting this bailout. They backed whoever you backed, their guy is the one is going to pay them off. And that's always been the deal from the beginning. And they are going to be just fine because of our money. But whether it's worth anything or not after that, I don't know. I love Hollywood. I want them to make a lot of money, and I think it's great that they're working. I think the rest of us should be able to work. But as far as bailing out pretend, I have a problem with that, especially when nobody bailed out, and we didn't ask for it, by the way. My wife, again, small business is being decimated. The restaurant industry.
No, but you're right. Your wife just basically became a statistic. That's the sad part.
Yep. No, she's my only goal with my California videos. I know that's like way off topic from what I do on my channel. Is I want them to know my wife's name. I want somebody to know my wife's name. You're not going to do that to my wife without knowing at least her name. Assholes.
Word.
So that's my mission at this time. That's why I went on a network that pissed some people off. Don't really care because they're going to know my wife's name by the time I'm done with this, before I'm dead. And we're not going to forget this. And we're one of a million stories out there that's being absolutely suppressed. You don't hear anything about small business. Once in a while, the news will run with it, but not much. And there's people out there who they're done. And we're one of the lucky ones. We always prepared for disaster, right? But not everybody has the luxury to do. I'm not saying it was a luxury. We worked our asses off for that, but not everybody gets to do that. So, I also want to give voice to other people who have been just silenced right now. And while our governor is going to the freaking French Laundry, which the cheapest thing there is $350, and that's just to get in the building. We got people who are going to be starving soon in America because of this, instead of being allowed to work. So then we get to watch a bunch of millionaires and billionaires get bailed out. I mean, what do you think that's going to cause? That's the biggest problem I'm having covering pop culture is I have a lot of people going, I'm just done with Hollywood. So we had this great moment with Luke Skywalker and stuff, but once everything settles in, if Hollywood goes back to being old Hollywood, which that's probably the reality, folks, they're going to go back to being old Hollywood from a year ago. Are you going to want to support that? How do you feel about being broke and jobless and, Tom Cruise gets to film the 7th Mission Impossible movie and get funded by us?
No, and I admire what you've been doing to make, or to highlight what is going on to just regular people and bouncing off of all that stuff. I seen this coming, as we all did, but it's just ironic and funny, not to switch gears here, how Hollywood reacted to HBO's announcement, and how they knew that was like the end of theaters and how they reacted to that. And I feel like that was just kind of a really strange thing, even though I somewhat predicted that in the past. But I mean, do you think that might be one of the reasons why theaters end up getting a bailout too now, is because they're going to be trumpeting for that as well?
Yeah, they're going to make it part of it.
Yeah.
And that's Hollywood has money. And if they don't have liquid, I mean, I was kind of surprised. Disney doesn't have a ton of liquid, but like Apple does, Amazon does. Buy the damn theaters, bail them out yourself. You're the ones who need them. Yeah, Well,
and that's what I've said too for a while now. If anybody's gonna bail out the theaters, it was gonna be them. And then they're like laughed at them because, like, you did that video on it and stuff like that, where they're like, good luck,
Because they knew we would, and that's the theaters are their lifeline. So maybe that's probably why they feel so comfortable to announce projects. But now you see them dialing back. Like Disney only announced, as far as Star Wars is concerned, 2 movies. They gave well, didn't they say? Well, the Marvel movies, Black Widow is supposed to be out this May. Not happening, dude. Not in California anyway. It's not being released in
I think
California.
we've all kind of predicted that it's going to end up going to Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yep. So no, they feel very confident that they're going to get their bailout now, so they can start announcing movies, and maybe the theaters will be just fine thanks to you and me. It just there's a point though, if this goes on too long, this bailout money might be worthless. So I don't know if that's going to work either. And the only thing I've ever been saying is just let us work. Things are dangerous. Sure. Protect what people have said a million times, protect the vulnerable, let everybody else go to work. And then we'll have an economy. Otherwise we won't.
Well, and to your point, Hollywood does not need a bailout. They have money. They just want this money. It's pure greed driven. It is purely greed driven, because you're right. Apple and Amazon, they have other means of income. They're fine. Disney has always been borrowing to pay for their productions, and then they just want it because they want to offset their losses at the parks. AT&T is actually not worried, even though they are selling off properties. They have a common source of income through their service provision division, so they're okay. Everybody else that's in Hollywood, they just want the money to have the money, but they're already been borrowing stuff for years, and they'll continue to do so. So they really don't need a bailout, nor do they deserve one. I want that money to go to the people who are actually suffering, and because that's what it should be there for. That's ethically and morally what it should be there for.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, what do you and I do if things get tough? We have to sell assets, give up luxuries. I mean, all of us have had to do that, and what Script said is true. Disney does not want to give up their luxuries. They don't want to give up their $1,000 a week comic book habit, or something like that. They want their cake and they want to eat it too, and they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it, and there's so much. There's so much we're just letting happen, and the only power we have is with our wallet. And when they mesmerize people with a good show, that's fine. With the Mandalorian, I mean, it makes people and sure, we needed people needed joy, especially during this year. They needed that moment. But remember that they're working behind the scenes to take your money, keep their company going, keep those profits way the hell up, and offset any losses possible on your dime. My dime, Tom's dime, and we don't have the dimes to spare.
exactly.
It needs to go to, if it doesn't go back into small business, and this is in all seriousness, if this does not go back into small business and we do not rebuild small business, the America you were in a year ago will not exist anymore.
I think that's the sad future we're facing right now, Gary. I almost wonder if it's not too late to turn back. I mean, because I think you're right. I think, it's this crazy concept. Why not, if they actually, open the world up and allowed people to work, then maybe Hollywood wouldn't be hurting. And at the same time, maybe if they actually gave the money to the people who need it, they could afford to go see movies, then Hollywood wouldn't be hurting. But no, instead, they're just going to give a buttload of money to the big corporations like Hollywood.
And they don't need to, because we've had a 2008 recession. Hollywood didn't get a dime of that, and they were fine.
Mm-hmm.
No, but they didn't cause the 2008 recession.
That is also true, yeah.
Yeah, that bailout, which someone should have been impeached for, was exclusively for the people that caused the whole disaster.
Yeah.
No one else.
But let's get out of the politics here now.
Yes,
Let's have a super chat here that actually addresses Gary. So let's go ahead and read that real quick, and then we'll get back into a few of the other ones.
Exactly. Because then, as you can see right now, Tiberius Monk says people are struggling, hurting, on death's door in some cases, through no fault of their own. Hollywood doesn't need help. The people need help.
Yes.
And before that, he also said, to Gary, as a Californian, I feel your pain. Small businesses, Main Street Californians are struggling, and Gavin Fraxham is a disgrace. Preach on, sir.
Yeah.
And Rolf Hartman says for $10, I wonder how much less cash Hollywood would have received in the bailout that was blocked before the election. Likely it went up with the Biden victory. And with that, let's do some other super chats before we move on to the next topic on the list. Next up, we have Dirty Soul Monkey that says Sebastian Stan. Perfect opportunity to bring him in. But I did hear that it was a last-minute choice to show Luke's face, which is why the CGI looked rushed. While Polaris Sucks writes, happy to see you all together, great as always. And 200 Watt Studio asks, why hasn't a Chewie series been announced? I would totally watch a Chewie series with his family in Wookiees with subtitles. How about you guys?
Might be a Visions version of that.
Yeah, they're probably, yeah. You're probably going to get a lot of stuff in the Visions.
Does nobody remember the Star Wars holiday special?
Remember?
Oh, vividly.
So yeah, that's the answer for that. And Matt G says this episode 8 was better for Luke than the last episode 8, referring of course to the leaked J.J. Abrams treatment. On that note, Ryan Kinnell from RK Outpost says that script looks like it was written after The Last Jedi. I don't buy it. Which is fair, but to me, I think there's a lot of it that seems legit, even stuff that we didn't cover in the video.
Oh, don't put it past Jar Jar Abrams to feed information to make Jar Jar Abrams look good, though.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's rule number 1 in Bad Robot: make the boss look good.
Yeah, but which is why I would say we don't believe that it's we don't know if it's legit or not, but it's out there, and then we'll just have to see what one thinks, pending further confirmation one way or the other, which probably will never come in this case. And Stephen Otten says, like Drinker said in his video, people want good story and characters, not identity politics. And Taker610 says, Grogu bullied Kilp mercilessly at Luke's academy. And with that, let's move on to another topic altogether. So, Gary, you've been covering Lord of the Rings pretty good. What's going on with that?
Well, the production is well on its way. It's been going pretty strong because New Zealand was coup-free for a while. As a matter of fact, any American that flies in there has to, they're not letting just any American in. You have to be an actor pretty much, and you quarantine for 14 days. I think they're halfway through filming the first season now. They had to do a test pilot. I guess it was all right. They're still rounding out the cast, but the main cast was released, or the second wave of the main cast was released, and it was very diverse. And that brought up a lot of stuff. And I had put out a video a few months ago, basically warning the Tolkien fandom that get prepared to enjoy fandom in 2020. Basically, it's going to be filled with politics and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want that to happen. But unfortunately, Bad Robot's involvement in the show is pretty deep. And I have been trying to research J.D. Payne, and I believe it's Patrick McKay.
Patrick McKay. The two of them, I have some information on them because they are, of course, they're Bad Robot staff. They did a rewrite on Star Trek Beyond, but most importantly, they wrote the script for the still unmade Star Trek 4, the one that would see Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth reunited as father and son. That's their script. They wrote that one. So that was kind of like their big claim to fame, the unmade Star Trek 4 that no one really wanted and that never got made.
Yeah. And then they were given the biggest show in the world. By far. It's $1 billion show. And it's planned for 5 seasons. It's going to take place in the Second Age, which means they can play with a lot. The caveat is the Tolkien estate has to sign off on things, and there's certain things they cannot touch, which is anything in Lord of the Rings, anything in The Hobbit, and that falls under Peter Jackson's versions too. So there's both the book version and the film versions. They don't have the power to reject scripts, but concepts they can, which is kind of unheard of these days. That's the good thing. The bad thing is the second round of cast announcing. The second word they used was in relation to Tolkien was diverse. So I went and looked, and I'm like, I wonder how many times Tolkien has actually used this word in relation, and it was never, basically. And you got to run that by a scholar. I am not a scholar, and nobody expects it to be, lily white Lord of the Rings. That's fine. I don't care. There's men look different. Men and women look different. It's going to be interesting how they deal with the elves, who are pretty much defined by Tolkien, and dwarves. But the most important thing to me is the story. And, they had Brian Cogman there. He was consulting for a little while. He's from Game of Thrones. I don't know how much he had to really do with Game of Thrones. Some of his scripts, some of his episodes were some of the worst. That's all I remember. But he's no longer there. But it certainly looks like we're going to have a sexed up Lord of the Rings. And you're seeing some people being okay with that. I am so not okay with that in any way, shape, or form. That's not what Tolkien intended, based on what I've read. He is, in my last video on Nerdrotic Daily, I read how he feels about allegory. And what he says towards the end of that is beautiful. He likes to leave stuff up to the reader to interpret, and not being hammered over your head by the author, which is a beautiful thing. And it's things like, how are you going to make this show now, guys? Like the minute they make this show and they introduce an orc, there's going to be 20 Access Media articles going, here's the problem with orcs.
Yeah.
And orcs and race. And for one, I don't know what you're seeing when you see an orc Access Media person. I don't see a person. I see a freaking demon-like monster that was created out of pure evil. And he's left their description pretty open to interpretation, to be honest with you. I mean, he's never really fully described them. He's described them a little bit, but and it's only in later writings did he do that. And I have not read all of his later writings or his letters. And there's a lot. There is a lot. That's why there's Tolkien scholars. I don't have time to be that, but that's why I got Google, which always tells me the truth now. I mean, really. So I want this to be good. I'm a big fanboy for Lord of the Rings. So I was really looking forward to this series, but the more I hear about it, I think it's just going to be a complete disaster. And this might be, what's the biggest bomb out there? Heaven's Gate,
Mars needs
Boy, we're
mom.
showing our age.
I mean, like, I think it could be a bomb on epic proportions if you come out and you try to make a Game of Thrones Lord of the Rings. And that's what Jeff Bezos said he wanted. He a few years ago, this was prior to him nixing Conan, right? He wanted a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it wasn't him that did that though. That was Jennifer Salk.
Yep, who's gone.
Yeah, but
deal for Lord of the Rings though. So she nixed Conan, and she signed the Lord of the Rings deal, and then she got nixed.
Yeah, the one that Bezos was personally involved with Lord of the Rings, but the one that she signed was the Wheel of Time. That was the one that she went with over Conan, because she was like, okay, what do we do now? Do we do Conan, Wheel of Time, both, or one of them? And any of those possibilities were there. And then
but Conan was problematic.
That was very problematic. So that's, yeah.
What I heard they're doing with Wheel of Time, a story I don't know much about, but I heard that they're changing it a lot to be a little more female-centric.
That is entirely accurate, and that is a big part of the reason why she went with that as opposed to Conan, because Conan was a toxic male, whereas Wheel of Time, in the hands of the showrunners, had been made even more female-centric than that you could argue that the source material is. Yeah. And that was all that was required.
All I know is that we better get some barely legal Smeagol on Lord of the Cock Rings.
There. Make it happen. No, we'll find out in a couple of years. I mean, it's in production. This thing is massively expensive. They have giant water tanks, so I think they're going to be doing, at the very least, the destruction of Numenor, maybe as a prologue. There's some people who think it's going to be about Numenor. I don't know about that, but and it could be like American Horror Story, where each season takes place in a different era within the thousands of years. That's the Second Age. And they could mess around with things because Gandalf, before he took wizard form, was on Middle Earth, kind of just in the background observing the elves, and they don't really say what he looked like. People alluded that he just looked like an elf, but was it a male elf or a female elf? Who knows? Because he's just an ethereal being outside of that, before that. So there's all kinds of crap that they can mess with. And if Tom Shippey is there, Tom Shippey's a guy a lot of people have faith in, and I do too. But he was there for The Hobbit, and he allowed the Legolas freaking love triangle to go on. And that was horrible, by the way. I could not stand that part of The Hobbit. It was just awful. But I guess we'll find out. But I am not, just with Hollywood over the last few years, it's hard to get excited about shit now. I used to remember the days when you just like, oh my God, my favorite thing's going to get adapted into a film. And
those were the days.
Yep. And now it's like, oh no.
I remember being so excited, right? When we heard Lord of the Rings was finally going to be adapted to the live screen in a trilogy.
You know what I was thinking earlier this summer when we heard that now it's going to be like 25 weeks of Star Trek or something. There was a time when I would have thought, oh, yes, fantastic. Whereas now it's like, oh, God, no, why do they do this to me? It was like, that's quite the change, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's, and maybe they turn that around. I mean, there's still good out there, but I think anything produced before a certain year, if it's still being produced, you might have a possibility of being good. And as far as new stuff, I haven't taken on a lot of new stuff because of how I've observed Hollywood over the last few months. They've done so much damage to their overall brand, and that's when I say Hollywood, I mean entertainment. BBC, everybody. They've done so much damage to their overall brand. They've allowed so many provocateurs into the buildings, and now they're writing scripts for them. And I just don't know how you make a Lord of the Rings in 2020 based on which is supposed to be a mythology for England by a devout Catholic. I just don't see how you make that. And there is definitely that kind of messaging in there. The one thing that they could probably agree with is environmentalism. Tolkien hated machinery of any kind, and really liked trees. He had this like very strange relationship with trees, and they could probably lean into that. But and they can make it, I hope they don't make it female centric either. I hope that it's egalitarian. I think Galadriel is going to be the main character. And not Elrond. Elrond's going to be in it too, and Sauron's going to be the big bad. And I think we're going to see the forging of the rings and him passing them out, and we're going to find out who the 9 were. And if they fuck that up, sorry for the language, that'll make me angry.
Indeed. Yeah, but there's one good thing, though, and that is, or at least from their point of view, as you mentioned, this could be one of the greatest flops of all time. But if it is, we'll never know. No one has to know, because Amazon doesn't have to reveal their viewing numbers, do they?
No, and that's kind of the conundrum we're all going to have going forward is how are we going to judge what's a hit or not when they can hide it now? And they're never going to show their numbers. At least, YouTube shows their numbers. Are they accurate? I don't know anymore, to be honest with you. But we'll never know. And they can, I was talking about Star Trek Discovery. We all know, and Doctor Who, it's a giant farce that they're playing out right in front of us. Like, everybody knows these things sucks. Even the people who like them, they know it sucks. The access media is starting to turn on Doctor Who, which is incredible. I don't know why they haven't turned on Star Trek yet, but these things don't have a following, not enough to put millions of dollars into them, yet they play it out like it's this giant success, and they don't acknowledge that there's huge problems inside and outside of their franchises, and they just forge ahead with and I don't know why. It's like, why not? Disney just sent a message, a couple of days ago that, hey, if you listen to the fans and you give them what they want, wow, look at how happy you make people instantly, and it doesn't take a lot of work. So why are you working so hard to go against the grain? Well, it's that just philosophy in Hollywood. And I don't know if you guys have gone over it. Robert Meyer Burnett did a live stream on it, and I dug deep on that. I call it TITI, the TTEE thing, that think tank that's funded by the Roddenberry Foundation.
I know a little about it, but I don't know much.
Oh my God, read that thing. I'll send you the link.
I think doesn't have a lot to do with like some of the things like I was talking about with the Oscar roles and stuff like that about getting diversity.
It lines up right against them. And basically it's like, here's a story you can tell, and here's a story you can't tell. Well, if Lord of the Rings gets a hold of that, it can't tell Lord of the Rings. It can't tell the story. Essentially, you have to. I mean, like, let's be real. If you go into Lord of the Rings and you have the philosophy of Star Trek Discovery, are we going to have a disabled person in Lord of the Rings? I mean, I guess you can, but they would probably put him in a wooden wheelchair or something.
I think Wheelchair Man's not real busy from STD.
That kind of crap that, it takes away from Robert Meyer Burnett's favorite word, and I like it, verisimilitude.
Of course, it would give us another fun wheelchair meme for the Timmy narration, So exactly. Other than that, wouldn't be much great about it. On that, we have some questions from the audience. Alpha J330 wonders, hey Gary, just how much is the Tolkien estate involved on the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Pretty heavily involved. Christopher Tolkien passed, and that's the concern, because he guarded his father's legacy like you would want a son to guard your father's legacy. And I don't know if the heirs feel the same way. Maybe they do, but it's multiple heirs now. It's not just Christopher. You're basically gatekeeping. Sometimes that's, by the way.
Yeah, and if they don't have the passion, it can get diluted. One comparison there is, for instance, the Robert E. Howard estate, which was kind of mismanaged by the heirs because they were so far removed from Robert E. Howard himself. Like, it didn't really shape up until it was bought up by an external party where one man, namely Fredrik Malmberg, who we have interviewed, was the one put in charge of it. And that's kind of like when things started happening with it. So, yeah, you need people in charge of it.
He died when he was 30.
Yeah,
he did all that stuff before he was 30. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's and to think what he could have delivered if he had lived on. When he kind of like was done with the short fiction and he wants to go into novels and stuff like that, and then he ended it all. But I think that America lost what would have been one of its greatest writers right there.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah. But we have another
plug. You guys, watch the Conan videos. They're so good.
Oh, thank you. How did you like the interview that we did with Fredrik? The whole thing,
dude. I've got a playlist for the Conan stuff. Yeah. I got a little secret Midnight's Edge playlist for the Conan because I like my evergreen content, and you guys create good evergreen content. So at night, I listen to like the Conan stuff or some Song of Ice and Fire theories. Relieves the stress.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. So everyone, check out our interview with Fredrik Malmberg. I'm really happy with that.
That's why I applied for the job here, because it said we do evergreen content, and I thought it meant weed. I learned the hard way.
You did.
I have some other friends that learned similar stuff in other hard ways.
What was that, Gary? I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said, "Where's my weed, Andre?"
It's on the way in the mail. How's U.S. Post working these days?
Oh, it's slow, but yeah.
They don't know where my front door is on my house. My son had to make a giant sign because I kept on losing stuff. I don't want to go down this road, but a couple of eBay things I wanted bad. The post guy, our brilliant mailman, couldn't figure out where my front door was, and he didn't put a tag up, and I lost it. And I bid on this like uber rare Tom Baker head that I needed for my 1/6 scale, and I've never seen it before, and I'll never see it again. And they sent it back. I was so pissed. But no, mail is not doing very well here. But hey, they did a great job with the election.
Yeah. I don't even get me started on that. It's not for me to speak, but yeah, I won't even get into it.
And I've had some things.
We have,
you know what makes you feel better after you have something like that happen? Like look up like pranks that people set up to like get those guys who actually steal those. There's some hilarious ones out there.
Yeah, they're good.
They make you feel better afterwards. a little bit.
And before we move on to the next topic, let's do a couple of more super chats. And we have one relevant one from T. Lewis 2, who says, based on Gary's description, Gandalf's true form should obviously be played by Michael Burnham.
Oh, yeah. Sonequa Martin Green as Michael Burnham.
Gandalf of color.
A GOC? Yeah.
Yeah.
GOC. Little space Jesus can come down and just sort Middle Earth out just like that. Mm-hmm.
Well, Gandalf of many colors.
Yes. Oh boy.
Indeed. And let's do a couple of other ones before we move on. Going back a little bit, Axel the Bounty Hunter said, I'm happy to see that despite cancelling the Boba Fett movie, that he at least got his own series. I think that's going to be better, actually.
I'm a little more excited now that I hear Robert Rodriguez is involved. I'll give you that, and everybody here will testify that I'm not someone who has a Boba fetish. I'm not a big fan, so I wasn't even looking forward to it. So
if they go hardcore on it, like I'm not against a rated R Star Wars. Do it. I mean, for violence, make it badass.
Or like a grindhouse Boba Fett.
Yes. Oh yes.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
That's what I've been saying. It's like they almost are like taunting Tarantino. Now you got Rodriguez. Now the bridge is there. You could have Tarantino come in and direct an episode of this.
Oh, a Star Wars heist film with Tarantino? Oh, yeah.
Or just an episode of the Boba Fett, man.
And give him time. I mean, poor Robert Rodriguez didn't have a lot of time on that episode, I guess. And, wasn't his best work. But still,
he had to add minutes to a story that was not fully fleshed out. Like that's tough for a director to do.
Oh God, yeah, right.
That's the Marvel way of filmmaking, isn't it?
It is. What do they call them? Is it a stinger at the end? I forgot what they call.
That's a tag.
Tag. Yeah. The Book of Boba Fett thing, that was cool. Him sitting on the throne. I just wish he didn't, get kind of taken the task by another Mandalorian earlier in the episode.
Yeah, I couldn't buy most of that at all.
Yeah. You're establishing basically that's a Conan scene, straight up. That was, I was just like, but he just got kind of his ass beat, by.
I don't know. That fight was interrupted early. I mean, if he had wanted to strike back at that, so that's the way that I see
again,
it.
Maybe it shows the consistency. As good as he is, sometimes he gets caught off guard, like he did in Return of the Jedi. Because I mean, that was kind of lame, like the way he went out.
Totally lame. I thought it was lame then. Yeah, I did. I was not happy with that.
There are a lot of missed opportunities in proper directing it done in Return of the Jedi, sadly.
Yeah, and we do have an official logo, by the way, for Boba. This is it right here for Boba Fett.
Not bad.
I believe that's from the comics, or am I dreaming?
I like
Could
it.
be similar. I have not seen the comics
Andre, we could all be dreaming. We could all be sharing a dream. And not
maybe it's all a simulation. But anyway, I think I've seen a logo quite like that. But anyway, I like it. So I look forward to that series. I really, really do.
I mean,
And then moving on a little bit, Just Nova says, "Hello, gents. Do you think George Lucas is still helping without credit? And do you think this path on Star Wars will continue after George passes on?"
Gary, you were saying something just before that anyway.
Yeah, I think it would. Star Wars will forge ahead probably stronger. I want George to live forever, by the way. But I think it will continue stronger. I think they won't be. I think there is some people who feel obligated to George a little bit, and they should always have George in mind. I feel the same way about the Lord of the Rings show as I do about Star Wars. Ask yourself what George would do. Maybe not like dialogue, not that, but a concept, you know what I mean? Not dialogue. Make up your own dialogue. That's fine.
The easiest answer to what George would do is he would experiment with a new idea. Because that's what he is. He's an experimental filmmaker. He doesn't like to repeat other people's things. He likes to take the concept and say, what can I do new with this? And that's how we got the prequel trilogy.
Yep.
And then moving on, Adam Wofford asks, or rather he states, "So in Rebels show, when Ezra used it to save Ahsoka, that could create a new timeline. They were talking about different timelines." Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. And Nerd Cookie says, "Good morning." And Willie Woodward says, "Hey guys, hey Gary, Merry Christmas." Yes, Merry Christmas to everyone out there in the chat, or Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, or God Jul, or whichever is your preference. But,
Happy Festivus.
Yeah. Exactly. And 200 Watt Studio says, "J.J. Abrams is a BS artist. He never finishes a story. That's why he didn't do episode 8. He is a hack."
The official story from him is that he asked his family, and his family didn't want him gone for that long. But he did do the final episode, though, which is, can't say how good it was. But,
He should stick to producing and not directing or any sort of creative element.
The bad part is he's not a horrible writer. I don't even think he had much to do with the writing of Force Awakens, if I recall. But, I mean, regardless, I don't think he had anything to do with Star Trek and some of the other movies that he's made, but like some of the older stuff that he used to write on wasn't bad.
Well, did you see his Superman script?
That's the thing that makes me wonder is it who he's working with? Because he had a different
team when he started out. That's for sure.
And I'm not trying to stick up for the guy at all. I think he's a fucking hack. So
no, I think on his own he's pretty poor. I think he needs a good support group, but he hasn't had the same support group when he started writing as he does now. He left those people far behind, and now he's got a bunch of people that don't even ask good questions to challenge him. And that's kind of what you need in Hollywood. Is you need someone who's just willing to say, you know what, are you sure that's a good idea? Let's take it to its final conclusion and see if this will actually do the job we want it to do. And you don't get that many those types of relationships in Hollywood anymore. There's just too much money being thrown around and too many jobs at stake, to the point where a person is more terrified of being kicked out of the industry than just saying, like, listen, we're dealing with millions upon millions of dollars. We have to make sure that every cent appears on screen. And if we do something that's stupid, we're going to be hurt for that with our audience. And they don't risk that anymore. They don't care. They're just ready to say, yep, whatever you say, boss.
And with that, Mr. Tickletrunk says, "The longer they go without addressing their error with the sequel trilogy, the less and less I'm willing to give Star Wars any attention. Clock's ticking." While Phil Moore says, "Here's hoping Lucas is secretly working on the real story to what happened to Luke and everyone after Return of the Jedi, and it gets released posthumously." Well, can't we hope that it gets released while he's still alive to see it? That's what I would do, but yeah. And Rude Artist says, "Do you think that Luke Skywalker will make an appearance in either the Ahsoka or Boba Fett series?" Gary?
Yeah, I think he will. They have to now. I mean, that's. I don't know if they thought this through. They just like, hey, we want to have Luke in this scene, and it will create a lot of enthusiasm, but where do you go from here? You you'd have to recast. You can't do that deep fake stuff at all. So yeah, I think he'll show up. He has to. They've established it now because people will be asking now, and that's a problem with, when you're taking on one of these shows, you're going to be hearing the fans go, "Where's Luke? Where's Luke? Where's Luke? Where's Luke?" Once you do this, and then all of a sudden, hey, Han's
Leia's out there.
Leia's out there.
Lando Calrissian's out there.
Yep. So there's that opens up a giant can of worms. And Disney supposedly was spending so much time getting away from these characters, and they just can't, because you know what? Luke is Star Wars. He is.
I do got to say, though, that wasn't deep fake in the episode. That was that full-on CGI stuff. Yeah.
CGI mask, yeah.
We should have been so lucky that it was a deep fake. That would have been better.
Yeah, I just saw that deep fake. It looks fantastic. They got
could
lighting
have,
right.
and it would have been cheaper. Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, like I said, I think the life is in the fact that the mask itself is actually Mark Hamill.
Oh, they're working like hell on that technology too. I mean, for one, you can get life out of older actors, and I predicted this when I was a little kid. I mean, someday we're going to see a movie with Harrison Ford, John Wayne, Clark Gable, and some modern actor, and Tom Hardy.
The Expendables 13.
Yeah. And Sylvester Stallone, but they'll DH Sylvester Stallone. There'll be two versions of it.
I'm still waiting for Romance of the Pink Panther with Peter Sellers.
Rocky and Rambo.
Oh, that'd be awesome with Peter Sellers. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, and it's about who sells their likenesses, and that's got to be going on right now. So.
Yeah, and as our good friend Gary J. Tunnicliffe pointed out, not only can you do that, you can also have an actor or an actress selling their likeness of like right now for the next 20 years. Like, for instance, imagine if Megan Fox had deep faked herself and her entire body, or like had her entire body scanned in like ultra 4K super high res thing, so that deep faking would be easier. She did that at the age when she was at like Transformers 1 level, right? Yeah, back in 2007. And then they could deep fake that imagery into movies for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Why not? And they can make an Indiana Jones movie with a young Harrison Ford.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. I mean, that boat has kind of sailed, but that's the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
As long as if they improve the technology enough, that boat doesn't have to have sailed just yet. They just have to get Harrison Ford or his estate to sign off on the usage of the likeness.
There is that. But I mean, great. That's the exact point. Is like you can have Tom, what's his face, who plays Spider-Man, Tom
Holland or
Tom Holland. Yeah. Tom Holland. He could play. He could have himself scanned now. And then 30 years from now, if they want a younger version of him, then they just go back to the, to the files, and there you go. Yeah. And that works the same way for prosthetics too, as well as what Gary was pointing out, is it saves cost on that and time and all the other shit.
Exactly.
I mean, the big question is, at this point where we stand, what is it? 5 days after Mandalorian, are you in? Are you in with Star Wars? Because what they just established is for the next 5 years, we're going to go on this path, and we may erase the Disney trilogy, or we may make a new timeline for this story. That should always be an option, right? Why don't they just take this and make it a separate timeline?
Same difference, same end result.
Yep. Or we can use it to reset the whole damn thing and remake the original trilogy, which I still think they're going to do. And they can remake the prequels, and they can make them TV shows instead of movies. And each prequel movie can be a 10 episode story, and they could just adapt the novels. Or with Star Wars, you can adapt the radio show and make that a TV show. The radio show is brilliant. Oh my God, it's brilliant. So you can show things like Luke, constructing his lightsaber, all the stuff with Biggs. Sure. I mean, there's a lot of options open on the table. So that's where I think they might be going with timelines, if they use it at all, or they just could be using it for, like Tom said, a weapon. It could be a big bad using it or something. But we're seeing Marvel go that direction. That's how they're going to do their hard resets. They're introducing the multiverse, and that's how they're going to introduce Fantastic Four and X-Men and go on a whole other path. And they're probably, well, if they're going to be doing it in Marvel, they will be doing it in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Just what they do with it. And are you willing to buy in and start buying Disney Plus and buying Star Wars products and, buying action figures that aren't secondhand? You buy them directly from Disney. I got Cara Dune action figures, but I bought them on eBay from some schlub, so I can help some schlub out instead of Disney. And I mean that as a term of endearment, by the way. I mean, that's the question out there, and you don't have to answer it right away, but that's where Disney is with you, because I think, again, they got a lot of people back instantly, and they're just not admitting it right now. Yeah. But they're like, I'm on board. I'm ready to go back to that freaking Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan again, and that's fine. That's fine. But after, just don't be surprised if they pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, I would say that I'm also on board, and I've never, ever counted myself as a Star Wars fan before, and it would be kind of disingenuous to say that I am now, but I feel more like it now because I really like what they did with The Mandalorian. But moving on from that, Gojira Star 5477 says, "Thank God. Thank you for addressing it. Was worried Lord Roundhead was back," in reference to an earlier comment we made. And Alex Acera says, for $9.99, thank you so much, "Two white guys gave better representation and equality than KK's passive progressives. Get Karen Gillian to be Mara Jade. Funny thing is, I'm one of the people they tried to pander to. Tried and failed by the sounds of it." And that nobody guy also says for $10, thank you so much, "Filoni is the co-showrunner. The search for Ezra will definitely be their direction. Between loving this show, the insights to the industry are rad. Love the Conan and special effects episodes. Hail." Well, hail that nobody guy. Thanks for watching. And we're going to have plenty more with special effects and deep faking with Gary J. Tunnicliffe. So stay tuned for that. And BK0271 says, "The Mandalorian timeline. How many Jedi are left?" Gary, any thoughts?
Ooh, Ezra, Luke, maybe Mace Windu is out there. And I mean, dude, this is a Ryan Cannell question. But that's all I know.
So the roster's growing every day, it seems like.
It is. Ahsoka isn't technically a Jedi. She's not a Jedi. So 3. There's probably going to be more. I could,
Yoda's
talking about live action. If we go to Rebels and all that stuff, I honestly, if they introduce, I don't remember every episode of Rebels. So there might have been something in there.
Yeah, I don't remember who the Green Twi'lek was in Rebels.
Yeah,
what her name was.
I'm forgetting her name too. I know somebody annoyed the hell out of me. That's about it.
Yeah,
if they introduced Sabine, which they will.
And I defer that one to you for a reason. That's because I have no clue. So yeah, I said I can call myself a Star Wars fan, but it's disingenuous because I don't know the traditional Star Wars half as good as any of you guys. Yeah. And 200 Watt Studio says Kathleen Kennedy produces great coffee. You're probably not wrong. And GS Will 11 says, "Have no idea why they didn't use deepfake on Luke. Really hope they go back and change that.
Yeah,
how much money could it possibly be?"
I bet you they could. Well, they're not gonna. Well, it's digital. They can change whatever they want. I would like them to
change it easily.
Rest in peace, Jeremy Bullock at the end of that episode. That would
have been nice grateful. Too. Yeah,
that might have been too. I don't know if they could have wedged that in, but that would have been nice. Yeah.
Well, I can't remember the person you said who did it, Andre, but that deep fake that's out there, it literally took him what? A few days to do it?
I don't know how long it took him, but
the show's only been out since Friday morning or whatever.
Yeah, it can't have taken him more than days, and if I'm guessing, I would imagine it's only taken him hours, and it looks better. So yeah, that's someone that we hope to have on and talk about more of that stuff. But yeah,
I'll be watching. That's cool. No, that brings up an interesting question, Script Doctor. We have digital formats now, and you can change your episodes. You can like, oh, that part sucked. Let's reshoot it and make it better. Like Game of Thrones season 8, you could.
Well, they already took out. Remember, everybody was making a joke about the grip guy that was in the background of that one episode of Mandalorian. And
Yeah, the Carl Weathers directed episode. Yeah,
he's gone now.
yeah, there you go. That didn't take long.
Yeah.
So like, and that's like the irony. The only place that where that guy still exists is out there on the high seas, because the Disney fixed that in their service, so you won't see it there.
Disney Plus allows me to download it, so I still have it, but I'm not putting it on the high seas.
So I have another question, because we have a lot of people here who like physical media. I mean, if we're not going to get a physical media of Mandalorian, they're not going to make a Blu-ray.
Probably
I
not.
don't think so. Probably not.
Would you make your own?
You could.
Yeah.
You absolutely could. It would require you to go on the high seas, and it would require you to have like some knowledge about how to physically stack up all the data needed to make what you found.
Or
on
just
the
have a
high
program that
seas.
helps you make Blu-ray. But yeah,
They already exist. Yeah, you don't even need to go on the high seas, really, if you got a screen recorder.
Yeah. Well, basically, all you need is the episodes. If you have the episodes on a hard drive so that you can move them, then it's really just a matter of converting them to the right format, slapping them on the disc, and having all of the disc data in a way that will make it readable on a Blu-ray player, standalone player. And you have programs that will do that for you. And that's really it. That's all you'd have to do. Is you can absolutely make it yourself.
I was going to do that for Daredevil, and then they came. Netflix released it on Blu-ray.
Only the first 2 seasons.
Yep.
Seasons, The Defenders, season 3, and The Punisher are not available on Blu-ray. I know, because I wanted them in my shelf. That's never going to happen.
I wanted season 1 of Alter Carbon. They didn't make that. I want Bright, the movie. So. It takes a long time, though. You got to be do something else, like clean your house while you're burning everything.
Yeah, it takes a while to burn Blu-rays, but yeah, with the right hardware and software, you can absolutely make your own Blu-rays, and you can even get the boxes. You can get them easily online, and with a decent printer, you can even do your custom cover art. That's going to look a heck of a lot better than anything that would have come out officially. There's even like custom art web pages for custom Blu-ray art.
Yeah,
that's you want to make the awesomest Star Wars physical collection, you absolutely still can.
Well, Mr. Miles brings up a good point, and I think it actually raises a good question at the same time, or another point I'd make. In most cases, it's probably better to just leave them on a flash drive, or it's easier, they're more transferable, and most things can play files nowadays. But here's something I noticed. I think we're late enough in the show. I could probably talk about this a little bit. I've had at least more than one person come up to me and talk about how they would make a Blu-ray out of a movie that's coming out on a streaming service in the next week here. And I told them I may not or may know how to do that, but why would you want to do that? Blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason is there's a lot of people who just aren't into the whole streaming thing yet.
Yep.
There is a section, and it kind of warmed my heart, because it still tells me that there is a place for physical media. So you never know, this said movie or unsaid movie may be one of the biggest bootlegged Blu-rays for a while till it actually comes out.
Oh, I think you're going to get a boom of. I think it's already happening of physical media because of these streaming services.
Yeah, we see Bad Mojo says it in the chat. I got the bootleg copy of season 3 Daredevil. There you go. Because here's the thing: all you have to do is basically get like a really decent copy of it on your computer, and then from there, it just requires a little bit of technical know-how to put it on a Blu-ray disc that's playable in any drive anywhere. And as someone pointed out, now is probably a good time to say that Surfshark VPN is awesome for all kinds of stuff like that. And go to the previous Star Wars video for a link and type in Midnight's in the checkout.
I use Surfshark because of Midnight's Edge. That is
awesome,
by the way. So there you go.
There you have it, officially endorsed by Nerdrotic.
And then you can watch Doctor Who on the iPlayer.
Now we owe him a couple bucks.
Yeah, I'm sure we can sort that out. So yeah, that's how you get around geo-blocking restrictions. And since we're on that, yeah, carry on, Gary.
I just forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, well, while you think about that,
one thing I was going to say
In the world ever.
on relevance is that the Geiger says deep faking is cheap but time consuming, but doing so over the top of the CGI Luke with real Luke again takes far less time for the AI to learn. Maybe one day. Well, there you go.
Perhaps, but I also see the flaws in this version that could have been. They had the time. They can do it. I don't know why they did it this way, but
I think Disney did it because they invented this version of that technology. They used it with Tron. They used it on Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man with Michael Douglas was probably its best version of it. Better than what they did with the stuff in later parts of the film. So I think they're just holding on to it because it's their own proprietary technology and it's probably cheaper for them to use. If they want to use deepfake, they probably have to pay some sort of extra license or something of that nature, which I doubt they want to invest in at this moment, given the amount of money Disney is currently investing in on their production side of things.
Yeah, that was my guess, was licensing money, the bean counters, and dude, their technology for shooting the Mandalorian is unbelievable. I love that.
It's changing the entire industry, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I mean. Like even something like Dune, which we're probably not going to get like a big screen sequel to, made in anywhere near the same kind of budget. You probably can do a sequel that's not going to look all that different with the Mando technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Disney will make money off of them shooting it there too. So that's a win for them.
Speaking of Dune, I seen the figures yesterday. A couple of them.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. No, but that's like the thing.
Conan's huge.
Well, he rightfully should be.
No, he's compared to the other figures, he's like huge.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it looks on screen.
Who plays it?
Skarsgård.
Yes, Stellan Skarsgård. How is that not genius casting? Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron Harkonnen. I mean, like, I would never have thought of casting him, but like once you hear it, it's like, whoa, that's like better than anything.
I'm just more worried how he looks in the fat suit than anything.
I think that's.
I'm not worried about his acting. I'm worried about how he's going to look. Yeah.
We have a couple of more super chats to move through. 52 movies a year says for $9.99. Thank you so much. Do you think Favreau is writing himself into a corner? So when it's a hit and he is stuck, he can turn to KK/Iger and say, "What do you want to do now?" Forcing their hand to deal with the prequels. I think that he knows exactly where he's going. That's my thought, guys.
I'm interested to hear what Gary and Script think. I don't know about writing himself into a corner, but I do feel like from some of the quotes I've read, Favreau is all in favor of making it all count. Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit my mic there. He's in favor of making it all count, meaning that means everything that a fan holds dear, he wants to please every fan. It's a political answer in a way. But I've also heard he gets to boycott things that Filoni says. So that could be an explanation to where either A, Filoni has pointed out things that break canon. He's like, I just don't give a shit. Or Filoni's not pushing hard enough for things that are breaking canon and to make the point to Favreau. Because at the same time, I can't imagine Favreau's not somebody who doesn't care about canon and continuity, because in some things in this show, it does show that he is a huge, huge Star Wars fan. But there's a lot of things in the show that myself and I know Script and Gary and a lot of others do have problems with.
Jon Favreau's the most important man to Disney, right? Or to Disney Star Wars right now. And they need to do anything to keep him happy and keep him there. And I don't know if he's written it. Yeah. I mean, like introducing Luke presents like narratively a lot of problems because you would have to recast him at some point. And it seems like the audience is mostly fine with that. And that was their big test. This was a big test, and they passed. And as long as Favreau stays there, I think you'll probably be pretty happy. If he bails out at some point a couple of years into this, I would be worried. I would be very worried. They brought an architect of the MCU, and I talked about this in a couple of the live streams. Sorry to repeat it, but Kevin Feige is not the architect of the MCU. He's one of the architects of the MCU. Was he pivotal? Sure. But Jon Favreau was there, and I think he was as important. And Kevin Feige has systematically gotten rid of everyone who was around him in the beginning. And now it all falls on him. I think losing Jon Favreau hurt the MCU. And he was there for a long time, for a long, long time after even directing Iron Man 2. He was there consulting, talking, James Gunn certainly helped too. But remember, Joss Whedon was instrumental in building the MCU too, and then he had a falling out. So I don't know. Jon Favreau seems like a popular guy. Everybody seems to like him. So I could see him staying there and maybe fixing this. I think a possibility that I didn't think existed 8 months ago, I think exists now. And it's because of the fans' acceptance of what happened at the end of The Mandalorian, and I don't mean to patronize or anybody. It's just, it was a very simple act. It wasn't even Mark Hamill. It was a 10-minute scene that really just kind of dominated what should have been the Mandalorian's finale. And it's what everybody's talking about. And that's good if it made everybody happy. But when time passes and you look back at the series as a whole, I think The Mandalorian season 1 was better. I think it was just more of a cohesive story, and it focused on the main character. And I think he got lost in this. And now everybody's talking about Luke, and now Disney has to deal with this problem. Are they going to actually make a Luke series? Because that's what people want. That's why I'm surprised that they introduced Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan series. Why not just make a Darth Vader series?
Right. That's what we've all been saying from the start.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
We have a Mexican Iron Man in the chat as well as an Ethan.
Yes, I was about to say, especially to Mexican Iron Man, we're so glad that you are back and feeling better. I don't know if you heard, but we've wished you well on the air multiple times. And he says for $20, thank you so much, muchos gracias. While I heal my leg and while Chairman Newsom issues lockdown orders that cancel Christmas, at least I have Gary, Tom, Andre, and Script, a la Midnight's Edge, to keep the mind alert with high-quality discourse. Hail, gentlemen.
Orale, vato.
And I guess that's not the real EVS. That's a fake account. It doesn't show on. They need to fix that on StreamYards to where you can tell who the real accounts are.
Yeah, they used to have, like, if you go to the 3 dots, you could go to their channel and see.
Yeah, you can.
You guys, can your mods post links?
Yeah, ours should be able to. Yeah, but we only have a few. But yeah,
because mods have not been able to post links.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I'm actually going to piggyback what you said there, Gary, about Jon Favreau. So I think Favreau is going to be trying to stick with this as long as he can, because he does have a little bit of a sore spot with Disney, because they were the ones that prevented him from doing the Demon in the Bottle for Iron Man 2. Like, they were instrumental in that. And he made a mistake and then was not allowed to direct any more Iron Man or Marvel films after that, but he was still able to be around to consult, and he was grateful for that. And I think when he had this opportunity to get into Star Wars, he's like, I'm not going to repeat the arguments that he made when he was fighting for that story with Iron Man, where he is in Disney. But I think he's subtly trying to, lay down breadcrumbs to do something that he really wants to do, because as my understanding is that Filoni is sort of the lore guy, the codex of Star Wars for Favreau to draw on if there's any information that Favreau doesn't have. And I think that even though they both have to reconcile with their own story choices, there's going to be some contention there deep down, but not ever on the surface. And I think Favreau is probably smartly navigating that as best as he can. And whatever story ideas he has, he's trying to make sure that he gets there and massages his way there gently, so that by the time the higher ups who may not like the direction realize what's going on, it's too late. That's that. If I was in his position, that's what I would be doing. I'd be just slowly putting an idea here, a cameo there, nothing huge, but it's going to have huge responses, but nothing huge from the higher ups office to say or to have any issues with. And then slowly just say, hey, I've laid out this. Look, I did Luke Skywalker in season 2 of The Mandalorian. I did Han Solo in this other show, like Rangers of the New Republic or something. I did Princess Leia and Ahsoka. They all got great responses. I think we can actually go in a good direction here. You can't deny the numbers that we haven't released to the public. You can't deny the social media response to it. I think that would be, if I was in his position, I think that's what he would be doing, and I suspect that might be the case because he's learned his lessons quite well from his experience in Marvel, and we're seeing how he's doing that here with The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. You have falling out in Hollywood, and a lot of times things get better when, oh, we really need this person. This is like the guy for the job, and and it worked out. Both of them had it was a mutually beneficial for both of them to bring Favreau in, and I love the guy. I freaking love his movies. Swingers is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I love Maid. And Elf, the
Elf,
dude,
his chef movie was quite great. Actually, I really liked that.
Yeah. The guy, he's an actor's director, and he's bringing in a lot of cool people to do this. So sure, I think it's really tough for creative for people like Filoni, who was the head of Clone Wars, and and I'm sure he feels like in his mind he's the heir apparent to George Lucas. And then you have Favreau coming in, kind of getting all the accolades. Let's see how long those two can, like you just said, can work together in peace, or at least give that perception, and hopefully it lasts for 5 years. I don't know if it can. Usually these things don't. That's usually how it goes down, is somebody leaves. I can't see Filoni leaving Lucasfilm, because I don't know, has he ever done anything outside of Lucasfilm?
Not that I can recall off the top of my head. I think he's worked in animation most of his career. So
yep. And Favreau, a lot of people have said, why don't they offer him, Kathleen Kennedy's job? I don't know if he'd want it. I think he likes to make movies.
I've actually been toting that for almost a year now. No one's asked him about it. He's never suggested he's interested in that type of position. He is by and large a creative. And if he goes into the Kathleen Kennedy position, he doesn't get to be on the set doing all the things he loves to do in the same way anymore. He's got to focus on more than just the show he's working on that day. And even though he's got these 3 shows he's working on, going to be working on them one at a time. But as a head of a studio, you're working on all 3 of those at the time, and you just lose the love in doing that. It just vanishes because it becomes work and not so much fun. That happens to also be work.
You're no longer an artist. You're a businessman.
Yep.
Not fun.
Behind a desk. You're Kirk as an admiral, just longing to be in the center seat again.
Yes.
Indeed. With that, we have a few more super chats to get through before we move on to the next topic. Here's a couple of fun ones. Mr. Another says, if only we could ask Kathleen Kennedy's husband what she does as executive producer. Well, David Harvey says for $10, thank you so much. Kathleen Kennedy's executive producer credit means she's in a position to get some credit if it succeeds, or not get the blame for it if it fails. Either way, she's getting paid. Pure genius. And on producer credit, Wooly Woodwood says, Gary's producer credit was heading the casting couch to get Jeremy the job for Geeks and Gamers.
That's it.
Is that how Ryan was born?
That's how Ryan was born. You found out one night down in San Diego in a Motel 6 where I was staying during Comic-Con. Ryan was born. Well, conceived. Magical moment. He hated Baby Yoda when he was born, and Baby Yoda wasn't even around at the time. Yeah.
And Cultured Casino says, this all comes down to what Trevorrow kept saying. You can't write a great Star Wars film with Luke Skywalker without Luke taking over the movie. and then maybe he should.
Yeah.
And Loyal Fan 99 says Favreau deserves the benefit of a chance. Well, I think he's getting one now. And
I think he got it. I
Yeah.
think it was done. Real quick, a lesson in YouTube 101. I'm looking at New Rockstar's freaking clickbait thumbnail. It is perfect. So it's got Luke and that little grave. Remember the grave from his island that people speculated in? And it said, "Did Kylo kill Grogu?" And it's got an arrow pointing to the grave and a little circle around Baby Yoda. I'm like, oh, that's good.
Oh, God.
That is good clickbait, man. I
have to
applaud you,
check
New
that out.
Rockstars. Oh my God. Dude, we're gonna get 5 years of this. That's another thing. Is like, oh, the Star Wars theory crafting is gonna go off the chain now. And the rumors, it's gonna be something else. Lots of content.
Yeah. And Tiberius Monk says, just here to send my support to Midnight's Edge. Oh, thank you so much. And Rolf Hartman says for $10, thank you so much. Oh yeah, that's the one we already did. The one about the bailout. So we already addressed that, but thanks again anyway. And then Hoi, something, I'm not entirely sure how to say it, says for 10 British pounds, these streams all you guys do need to keep on going, even if just for my mental health. I watch these streams more than anything else. Have some coffee on me, guys. Oh, thanks, mate. We appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean, I know Gary gets a lot of the same kind of sentiments, and I've seen people on Twitter and other places reach out and say like the same kind of things to us, like, and seriously, like they're like, no, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these streams. And not only that, I think these streams take the place of all the entertainment we so sadly are lacking in a lot of ways. I mean, especially when you got guys like Gary, who, you know, Friday Night Tights is a big staple of this, and, you know, like High Council is another one, and these other things that we do all the time that I feel like they do mean something to people, so they are important. And when I hear that, that's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me pushing. And when I'm tired and I feel like I've worked too much or I got a headache or whatever, I remember that there's people out there that are, you know, they're relying on us in a lot of ways. And I know it's not the same as a nurse or a fireman or anything like that. So I'm not trying to pretend we're in the least bit as important as those kind of people, but I do feel like we do mean something in that way. And to me, I feel like that's important. And when you guys say those kind of things to us, that means a lot. So thank you.
Feelings mutual. I think what you guys do the exact same for us, knowing that you're out there
exactly
and you're participating with us. And yeah, we really thank you guys. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And we get to do that because of you guys. So thanks.
100%.
And now, before we move on to some more super chats, let's move on with another topic entirely. Gary, what's going on in the world of Doctor Who?
Who?
Dr. Her.
Dr. what? Dr. Pronoun? Dr. Karen? I believe utter destruction. So what Star Wars did Friday was how did Doomcock put it? It was a cultural moment. It was a moment in culture. I forgot exactly what he said, but it was a paradigm shift, and it sent waves through all of genre, through all of fandom. And I guarantee you the powers that be at Star Trek and Doctor Who and Marvel and DC all watched that and saw that go down. I'm sure there was a lot of people in the access media who were pissed. We're going to probably get 50 articles over the next week how bad the Luke thing was, because it made people from the fandom menace, and it made everybody happy for the most part. Not the most. You're never going to make everybody happy, but I'm going to say like 75% of the fandom was pretty happy with that. I think that's a decent guess. So when you're with Doctor Who and you are going along with this farce that if you see the actors being interviewed, Chibnall, who doesn't do a lot of interviews because he's horrible, they act like they have a successful show, and we all know that's not true. Recently there was a fan-sided is a group of websites that they're owned by Sports Illustrated, but they do 1428elm.com with member Susan Layton. That's a fan-sided website. They have a Doctor Who site. They did a big, not a survey, but a ranking of fandoms, of 250 fandoms. Doctor Who finished 201st. And this is from a shill site, from shill sites. Sorry, Susan, but a lot of the sites are shill. So, and that tells you where Doctor Who's at, even with the Access Media. I've got a video coming out shortly that kind of shows the Access Media is turning on them. Everybody's turning on them. And I do have some news that I can't run with now. I wish I could, but I can't. It's very soon.
You're such a tease.
I know I'm stopped, but no, this is Jodie's last season. This is Chibnall's last season. They will be, and they've got a lot of time to set up a new possible doctor. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to cancel the show. But that's on the table. It's on the table. If the ratings continue to go down, there's no way the BBC can afford to keep this thing going, even if it's going towards a 60th anniversary. That's the one thing that's the saving grace, is a 60th anniversary is coming up. Of course, you're going to see probably most of the doctors return. I don't know if Capaldi will come back. That's a big if, but I think Matt Smith would come back. I think David Tennant would come back for sure. And he's friends with the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, who we will lovingly call Dr. Karen. But it's in horrible shape. And what does Doctor Who want to do? What do the powers that be do? They flip off. I mean, like, there was a Twitter post 4 days ago where they put up Jodie in front of all the previous doctors, and it said, "Have you ever been limited by who you were before?" And they just disrespected all the past doctors. Like, great marketing campaign, guys. Well done. And it got the proper response, but not enough people care anymore. And there's a reason the hashtag RIP Doctor Who like autofills on Twitter to this very day. People are still pissed. They went through the Last Jedi thing that Star Wars, it looks like, is maybe coming out of. I'm not ready to say that yet. Doctor Who is still well within it. They took a show and destroyed it in 2 years, something that took 50 plus, almost 60 years to build. They destroyed it in 2 years. And it should be a lesson for everyone in entertainment of how not to do something, how you can undo something that quickly. And remember, they undid it. If you're not a fan of Doctor Who, they just changed everything about the Doctor. There's now multiple. There's as many doctors as there is genders right now. There used to be a number of doctors. They used to have limitations, and not anymore. The original Doctor was the first Doctor, played by William Hartnell. That's no longer the case. We don't know. And it was all done because of the problematic past of Doctor Who, having too many white male leads, blah, blah, blah. So instead of just having a female doctor and trying to make her basically one of the guys, one of the doctors, they felt they didn't have enough confidence in her. They were actually sexist. So they felt like they needed to change the whole story to help this female doctor who was not up for the job. She didn't do any research. Chris Chibnall's the worst writer possible. And again, if you're not a fan of the show, what as bad as Star Wars was and Star Trek, Doctor Who was 50 times worse what they did. They've even pissed off fans. I got emails from people who hated my guts after they saw the Timeless Children. They're like, okay, we're sorry. We like you now. And I'm like, that made me feel good. I'm human. But I was like, it's okay. I mean, it takes time for people to get there. But Jesus Christ, did they screw up that show so much. And I loved it. Doctor Who's my favorite thing. And I can still watch the old stuff somehow. Where I'm unable to enjoy it with Star Wars. I can't explain it. I have no explanation for it, but I'm able to still watch it because maybe I don't count it, but there's still going to be the next season coming. They're going to do, it's going to get worse. That I can tease. It's going to get so much worse. If you thought that was bad in the Timeless Children, just wait till series 13.
I'm so glad we have more genders now than we do flavors at Baskin Robbins.
Right?
But I got to ask this about Doctor Who, them, they, whatever. It's ma'am.
It's ma'am.
I can't imagine it was always like the number one show for the BBC ever. but I gotta imagine it's always been pretty popular. But where's the popularity standing now within the ratings? Do you know anything on that?
Yeah, it's rock bottom. So as far as like licensing and products are concerned, they went heavy into making like classic action figures, and they're just reusing molds. The licensing is what keeps the show afloat. It just HBO Max just flipped the bill for a couple more seasons, but they got it on the cheap because Netflix had let it go, and then Amazon had let it go. And I believe on the first, Netflix in the UK is dumping Doctor Who as well. So it's just going to be on HBO Max, I guess. And that's HBO Max is tiny compared to those things. And all of its value is based on the Tenet era right now, is being able to sell those reruns to other countries. They have a huge deal with China, who has first right of refusal. I guarantee you half the Jodie episodes don't even air there. And it's at rock bottom right now. I have somebody who works in and around Doctor Who. They're worried they're going to lose their job, and they don't even enjoy their job right now. From what's happened to the fandom, Doctor Who is absolutely seen as a platform, just like Star Trek, but the BBC refuses to change it. The Doctor Who was always as far as licensing and making money, it was one of their top shows. I think at one point it was their top show. Top Gear used to be their top show. That was the biggest show in the world. And isn't it interesting that the BBC's like on the brink of collapse, and the Grand Tour premiered Friday? I haven't seen the episode yet, but I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
and a few years ago, they had the #1 show on the entire planet, and they had Doctor Who hitting on all cylinders. They were making tons of money, and now the BBC doesn't even know if it's going to have a future. Once the license fee goes, they're saying they're done. They can't compete with and they can't compete with streaming services. So they'll have to. Who knows what they're going to have to do?
I have the answer for them. I mean, the Discworld series, The Watch, that's going to save them.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sorry. Didn't mean to blurt out like that.
No, that's fine. What little I know of it, I know how horrific that show is going to be. How much they changed. Well, that's what they did to Doctor Who. And I have the controversial opinion of the Doctor Who or Doctor doesn't work as a female. It just doesn't. You have a well-established male character of decades, and you just make him a girl, but you don't address anything. You just, he's got teats now. Okay. Nothing's changed, but everything's changed. And the fandom was dying anyway. They were dying out because it was getting woke before she came in, and they just dialed it up to 11 when she came in. You could most certainly now Doctor Who fandom was one of the best fandoms out there, and it used to be a show for absolutely everyone to enjoy, of all makes, shapes, and sizes. It wasn't really offensive to anybody. But then they started letting the identitarians creep in, and that's who took over. They could easily, because they've done it before with Sarah Jane. You could take one of the female characters, make another show, build that show up, make it as big as Doctor Who, and you would just make twice as much money. But it was more important for them to take something away specifically so they could shame you later. That was part of the marketing, was we can't wait to drink male tears and shame all the Doctor Who fans who are upset about this decision. And if that's your motivation, for one, it's petty, it's hateful, and that's not
Weird.
what it's about. And using Doctor Who for that is disgusting. But that's what they've done with Star Trek too. That's what they've done to Marvel. Look what they just did to Star-Lord. What they just did to Star-Lord was essentially what they did to Doctor Who. It was a move to piss you off. That's it.
I could write the
there's
ship
more
for
coming.
Doctor Who quite easily, actually. There is a way. Now, I got out just at that first episode of Capaldi because I thought it was pretty poor, and I didn't like some of the issues of it. But from what I've been reading online and some of the things that you said, Gary, and what I've seen on other YouTubers, there is a way to sort of right the ship. And I would propose that we have in Doctor Who lore the Master, and then we have the Doctor. So why not just retcon Kara, or Clara, sorry, as the imposter, and then just find a way to rework in that she actually took over the Doctor, and the Doctor's been held in some sort of time prison all this time, and she's really been posing as Capaldi, then regenerated as the current Doctor? And is she just running amok amongst time, and the Doctor that we love and know is actually trapped, just slowly trying to work his way out and reclaim his mantle? And boom, you kind of unlock a whole lot of potential to sort of get things back in order, and you end up making those terrible seasons actually mean something as a result, because it's got this dramatic irony where now when we rewatch them, we know that's not really the Doctor, that's the imposter, another Time Lord who is just causing havoc throughout time and space, and one that has been biding their time this entire series. And then you just expand the lore, and then you have another antagonist for the Doctor to fight that's also got similar abilities to him. That's my suggestion.
And this is the one show where you don't need a world between worlds or a Red Angel time suit. It deals in time. It can be fixed. Does the BBC have the desire to get rid of their first female Doctor and start over? Because it's not going to be okay if you just go back to a male Doctor after this.
Exactly. And you can also use the impossible child is the imposter, not the Doctor. That's the thing. And it just doesn't ruin the Doctor.
There's a million ways they could fix it. It's would they do it? No way. Not with Piers Wenger there and names I didn't even know who the hell they were, but I've found out about them, and they're just purely political people. That's all they are. And problem being, one of my mods, I can't remember the name of the organization. If he's out there, there is an organization, a political organization that is behind all of the identity politics that is gone into. It's like a think tank, I believe.
Yes, it is, and I'm not going to say the name of who's behind it, but if you can all guess, who's behind it.
Yeah. So that's what's behind getting in, and it is. So all this stuff that people were saying we were seeing ghosts and we're reading too much into it. No, there was an active movement to make shows woke or intersectional, whatever you want to say, to sway the public opinion, to work as propaganda. That is a real thing. And I didn't believe it at first. I just thought it was a bunch of like-minded people and they got rid of all the dissenting voices, and this is what we get. But it is something more than that. Because and I talked about it on Friday Night Tights a couple of weeks ago. There's a Portland art school, and I'm going to paraphrase this statement, but it's above it's their I don't know what term to use, but it basically says the quickest way to change something is basically through their culture. And you take the most popular thing in culture, you take that over, and then you can change things quicker to the way you want it. You can change a system. And that's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. And we're watching it play out right in front of us. That's why it was very interesting to see the Star Wars moment, which really bucks that trend. And hopefully it's not just a moment.
Or a distraction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed. So this all we're seeing now, it is by design. It's not a coincidence. It's not natural. Someone wanted this, and
trends usually happen naturally. That stopped 4 years ago.
Yep,
they've been going against the grain, going against trends, trying to create them, which they're finding it very hard to do. Because you can't. It's like trying to create a viral video. You can't. It either happens or it doesn't. Same things go with trends. No one has control over them. You can influence them after they start, but they start naturally. Well, they used to. Now I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it will be interesting and very frightening to see. That's all there is to say about that. As for the BBC, they actually have another thing coming too, a miniseries that is something that I should be looking forward to, but I don't. It even has David Tennant in it, if memory serves me right. Are you familiar with Jules Verne's novel Around the World in 80 Days?
Yep.
BBC has a new adaptation of that coming, 8-episode miniseries with race-bent Passepartout and gender-bent Inspector Fix.
Oh.
In which Phileas Fogg, played by Tennant, will travel the world and learn the horrors of British colonialism.
Oh. You're kidding me.
So if you thought that Around the World with Jackie Chan was bad, yeah.
It looks like Shakespeare compared to this. So it's going to be guilt in 80 days, basically.
80 different guilts a day.
No. Yeah, exactly. Like white guilt around the world or something like that. That's kind of what I've heard about it.
I'm going to have to cover this now. That sounds cringe as hell. David Tennant. David.
I think it was David Tennant. Let me just check real quick who it was. I think it was him. We
all know where most actors and producers and directors lie, but most of them still want to make money. You would think would still want to be make money.
You think so?
Most people possible.
You think so? Yeah, David Tennant as Phileas Fogg, and Ibrahim Kouma as Jean Passepartout, looking very French. Although to be fair, he is a French citizen.
When's this coming out?
I think that it's filming now, so it should be coming out around next Christmas, thereabout. Yeah, and Angry Panda says, "Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah, you got it, Angry Panda." He says, "What? No, Pierce Brosnan is my favorite Mr. Fogg. They will destroy me." Yes, indeed, Pierce Brosnan is indeed the best Mr. Fogg there is. Everyone is talking about the 1956 movie, but the superior live-action adaptation of Around the World in 80 Days was, of course, the one with Pierce Brosnan, the miniseries for, I believe it was NBC. I have to check. I'm doing a video on it, but I think it was NBC that had the 1989 miniseries, and it was epic. It's just a shame that it wasn't filmed in widescreen, and it can never be. It can't be made widescreen, and will probably never be released in high resolution. And Phil Chadwick says, "Anyone remember the old French cartoon Willy Fogg?" Now you will note that I said that Pierce Brosnan was the best live action Willy Fogg, but he wasn't the best one. Period. That would have been this one, and it was actually a Spanish cartoon, not French. Guys, did you ever see that, Around the World with Willy Fogg?
I've heard of it, but I did not know. Sorry, go ahead, Gary.
No, I was just looking at the Pierce Brosnan one, which I didn't watch either, but I was a little busy in '89, like really destroying my life. So that's probably why I missed it. I'm going to watch it.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Gary, I'll hook you up with it if you want. It's amazing.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's bloody awesome. So I'll hook you up with that. And Around the World with Willy Fogg it's the superior adaptation of it. Of that story, that animated series, Around the World with Willy Fogg, is the definitive version, more than anything else. So yeah. Script, you excited about Around the World in 80 Days?
Well, yeah, I'm always curious. I liked the story. I actually learned about the story after watching the BBC BBC series of Around the World with Michael Palin. Oddly enough, that's when I started learning about that when I was a kid. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it for curiosity, really, primarily. I like reading the older story. I like looking at the older films and whatnot. But yeah, primarily based on this premise, I guess the time it's being made, it's more like a morbid curiosity. I'll be checking out this newer one.
Yeah. So yeah, you heard it here first. New woke Around the World in 80 Days. Well, of course, it's been around there, like it's been announced, but it never got any traction. But I'm definitely doing an Around the World in 80 Days retrospective. So yeah, this is it's one of my favorite books, that one. And it's something that I've always wanted, is like a brand new epic miniseries in like full widescreen and all of that, and we're getting it, but I don't know that it's going to be any good. Quite the contrary, indications are it's going to be,
Around the woke in 80 days, right? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's some of the things I've heard. Now I don't know for certain, but we shall see. We shall see. But we have some more super chats to get through. We haven't done all of them in order. We're going to get through all of them by the end, although the order is a little bit messed up on some of them, but we'll get to all of yours. Now, where we were, Stephen Otten, and this going back a little bit, says, if I have to bail out Hollywood, then I want executive producer credit. And also going back to that topic, we had Alpha Omega Records who said, split the US up. It's inevitable anyway. Something along the lines of the new United States of America and the United Kingdom. Quite the team up. And Mark C asks, Andre, if I did Conan fan art, how do I get you to see it? You posted on the Midnight's Edge Facebook group and you tagged me there. That's how I see it. And Taker610 says, is Netflix bright to blame for the Lord of the Rings orc stuff? Gary, that's one for you.
Is Netflix right?
Bright.
Oh,
the movie Bright.
The movie that you're a fan of. Is that to blame for the orc stuff in Lord of the Rings?
No, that was happening beforehand. They Bright was just used as an allegory for it, which Tolkien would have hated. But somehow I went into watch Bright to hate it, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved that movie. But no, the origin of the orc stuff that goes way back. It goes back to when Lord of the Rings came out. That was around on the internet back then, and there's articles written every single year about it. Probably a couple this month. About it, and these things are written to undermine the story. That's it. I mean, the Lord of the Rings is just a story. That's all it is. It's a history. It's something Tolkien worked out in his mind. It's probably been in his head since he was a kid. It flourished when he was experiencing the horrors of World War I, where he lost most of his friends. He was writing these stories as letters to his kid while he was, down in, I think he was in Australia for a little while. And it's nothing more than that. It's Tolkien didn't see the world like that. He was just creating a story. And now, of course, people will come out and say it's systematic this or underlying that. Bullshit, absolute bullshit. But you'll watch for that to happen. And is Amazon going to put the orcs in it at all? I mean, I don't know. Probably, but how are they? You could tell that they drastically changed them in The Hobbit.
Indeed.
So, and that's partly because they were mostly CGI, and I didn't like that at all. I liked it better in Lord of the Rings, but we'll see. But it wasn't Bright, no.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. And then Aaron C has a question, probably for Andre. You think we're headed to a 1970s style stagflation? How bad do you think it'll be? I think we're heading for something a million times worse, because the 70s came about kind of. It was imposed, but it wasn't imposed by malice. Whereas what we're seeing right now, there's a will behind it. And I'm not going to get into it anymore here. I shall refer you to Tim Pool for more details on it. But what he's saying is all horribly true. So yeah, it'll be worse, much worse. And then Silver Nova sent us a super sticker with a thumbs up. Thanks for that. And Mark C also says, sadly, as bug nuts crazy as he was, if Robert E. Howard lived, I think we would have gotten maybe 5 more years of writing and then a padded room. Well, we'll never find out. That's the tragedy. And if we had only gotten 5 more years, then that's 5 more years that we lost out on. And world culture is ported for it. And Rob Altis says, this is a good one, since Tarantino might direct one episode, will we see Gina's feet? This is obviously in reference to Quentin Tarantino possibly directing an episode of Boba Fett.
That was just my speculation, of course. But
so we don't know that's going to happen.
We'd
But
have a
if
lot
that
of
were
feet.
to happen,
Yes.
if that were to happen, Rob Altis is evidently very curious about Gina Carano's feet. So, do we have any good news for him?
We'll see him. Oh
I
yeah.
think so.
If not hers, Ming Na Wen's.
Oh yeah, there's always hope. And Sporking News Podcast sent us a poop super sticker, so thanks for that. And Shadow Fenrir24 says, "Hail Midnight's Edge and Gary. I always thought a Boba Fett movie in the style of Friday the 13th with criminals he is hunting would be a gold idea. I'd watch that."
Yep.
And Primal Plasma says, "I think the appearance of Luke at the end of Season 2 was a one-off. I don't think we will see him again. Mando is not that tight with the Skywalkers." Time will tell. See exactly what happens. Mando may not be tight with the Skywalkers, but he is tight with Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda apparently is tight with the Skywalker. So there's a link there. And 200 Watt Studio says, "Do you have a link to the 4K Megan Fox footage?" I don't think there exists any. Sorry to say. Well, there is today, but that's probably not the one you were looking for. And Christian Sander says, "I like Star Wars a lot. I love Star Trek. The feeling I got from the Luke reveal is what I was hoping for when I heard the Picard announcement." Yeah, and look what you got instead there.
Yep.
Well. Yeah. And Master Clockwork says, for $10, thank you so much, "People get it wrong regarding Ezra saving Ahsoka. It created a time loop, not a diverging timeline. We already knew she survived the fight with Vader. Ezra pulling her from time only showed us how." Well, we also know that they have been playing catch and loose with canon, haven't they? So we'll see exactly what they choose to do with that.
Yeah, whatever happened in the Rebels and Clone Wars will be discarded as time goes on. It's canon until it's not, and they have an open template here. They can do whatever they want right now.
Exactly. And John Dorsey says, "Gary with the Edge Boys is a salve to my destructed soul. Cheers and Merry effing Christmas, gents. Hey. Hope you and yours are well." Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And Space Monkey 0899 says, "I want them to adapt the Dark Horse comics and the rest of the year EU."
Yeah. Well, I mean, they should have done that from the start, but they could do stuff like with Vision. Is it called Visions or Visionaries? Visionaries, Star Wars, the anime thing they're going to do. They can do things like the Infinities, where they did the alternate Return of the Jedi and alternate Empire Strikes Back, which were cool stories, by the way. Very cool stories. Check those out from Dark Horse.
I want Tag and Bink.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's me.
Yeah, they were going to throw everything in, Andre. It's all coming.
Even though the Tag and Bink creator is not a fan of Midnight's Edge or me in the slightest, I still want to see Tag and Bink. Oh, apparently he doesn't like what we have to say, but that's his privilege.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, no, maybe he gave up. Maybe he got maybe he got contacted. Maybe we'll see Tag and Bink soon. I don't know. I can maybe try to reach out to him and we'll see. And Max Relax says, "Ho, ho, ho. Thanks for the show." Oh, well, yeah, you're welcome. A pleasure, and thank you for watching. And then Camilo Villegas, or maybe it's Camilo Villegas, not sure about the pronouncement. Anyway, he says, "What do you guys think about Sebastian Stan as a possible new Luke Skywalker?" Gary?
Sure. I mean, if he can act like he looks like him, I think it would work. He's the right age. He's a little busy with his Winter Soldier stuff, but he's right there in the building. That's why I don't understand why they just didn't put him in there. And then you can still. Does anybody know who this actor was?
Yeah, it was revealed. It was no one that you'd heard about. It was like the same thing that they did with the actress that played young Leia before they CGI. She was actually Norwegian.
You know the guys that played him?
I know one of them. I know the one. His name is Matt. I can't pronounce his last name. I met him through a bunch of other stunt guys that I was working on a script for years ago. I know him casually, but yeah, he's it's Matt Rubet something. Like I think he was either the stunt guy or the body double. I can't remember which one because I don't know all the details of that. But yeah, he was there.
I think the most important thing, really, yeah, you can recast. I think it's fine. I think what's more important is you're going to have to introduce a villain that's threatening, and he's going to have to be as threatening as Darth Vader and the Emperor on his own, and that's probably going to be Thrawn. That would be my guess, and that's going to be the big, Thanos in this. And we'll see if they can establish him, because they did not do him justice in Rebels. I think everybody can agree on that. He was kind of lame in Rebels. So you need to reestablish his power, and maybe, I don't know how you do that, but you're only as good as your villain. But Sebastian, isn't that weird how fandom influenced that, right? Because that was just, people theorizing, a couple of years ago going, this guy kind of looks like Luke Skywalker. He'd be a good Luke Skywalker. And then it might actually come into fruition. That's the interesting part to me.
Crypt, any thoughts on you from that?
No, I mean, I'm fine with recasting because we've already seen examples of it with other characters. We've seen it with James Bond. We've seen it with Batman. We've seen it with Superman. Luke Skywalker, I'm not adverse to. You find the right looking actor who can do talent and who can embody some of the same characteristics that we've seen of the original cast. We as an audience will buy into it. You ask for permission, and you give us a polite way to ask about it by casting someone like, say, Sebastian Stan. We will go along with it. That's my understanding, and I'm happy to do it and get on side with that. And I just looked at my notes here. So MacLeod Jones was one of these stunt guys, and then Matt, and that's the other name. I think it's either Rugetti or Rugetti. I'm not 100% sure. He was either the body double or whatnot. But they were the ones that stood in for Mark Hamill at this point in that episode.
All right, excellent. And then moving on from there, we got actually a question here. Do you have any thoughts on The Stand?
Sorry, that's me. I can't.
If it ain't a wifey poo, then
the wife, Mrs. Nerdrotic, is telling me she's going to the store. Everyone, she's going.
Okay, I was gonna say, if it's the wife, fine. We'll let it slide.
Well, she's on her way. No, I was gonna watch it anyway, but I've heard a lot of bad things about it. I don't know.
Watch it.
You did?
Yeah.
How is it?
I agree mostly with what Robert Meyer Burnett said. I don't understand why they decided to take the narrative and totally twist it around, because unless you're aware of how the story goes, you're going to be completely lost.
No way.
Yeah, like it starts out like way into the book, and then it jumps back, and then it goes forward, then it jumps back, and then like there's like,
oh,
yeah, it's really weird.
Dude, that would be, that's terrible. It's a journey. Exactly. I love the miniseries that came out, back in the 90s. Yeah. I thought that was awesome. That's terrible. Why would you do it? Did Bad Robot produce this? Secret Hideout?
I don't think so.
They want to use that unreliable narrator for The Stand or some BS like that. God dang it. Well, see, yeah. That's produced it, so
yeah, that part's true. Like that's the thing though. Like I don't understand the whole thing, but like it starts out. I can't remember half the characters' names, but like it goes to the teenagers, the character that Molly Ringwald played in The Nerd in the original one, and like they're like the main focal point of the first episode, but it like bounces around in time. and then you jump to the facility where the one character that Gary Sinise played in the other one, he's played by James Marsden in this one. You jump like way into his story, and then it does a bunch of flashbacks here and there, and flash forwards at the same time. So like I have like I said, unless you know the story, you're going to be completely lost, and it takes away, like you said, the complete journey and the whole idea of what the whole story leads up to.
That sounds like some executive went, this thing's really boring at the beginning with all the journey and characterization. Can we just get right to the freaking stuff? You know, God, what a dumb move.
No, someone watched Pulp Fiction before they were editing this. They're like, you know what? We got to do it this way. I've been in rooms like that. It's pretty horrible.
Right? I mean, like Pulp Fiction has affected stuff to this very day. It's kind of like the Watchmen of movies. And what Pulp Fiction did is not good in everything. It's good in Pulp Fiction. You know, it's kind of like Whedon speak. Whedon speak is good in Buffy and Angel, and it's horrific in Star Trek.
And also Avengers.
And yeah.
I mean,
it's also like what Star Trek Discovery did recently. They basically watched Contact and then one Star Trek episode and then make Carl Sagan roll over in his grave. And yeah, it's...
Oh, is that why they named that guy Carl? Because of Carl Sagan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then they did the Contact thing. So Michelle Yeoh's character, passes through the door, but only a minute passed, but 3 months had passed according to her thing. That's straight out of Contact.
Yes,
so
it is.
That's what they watched before they wrote and shot that episode.
Because none of them have ever seen any science fiction before.
Exactly.
So they're like, we need to see something sci-fi. Oh, I hate Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, God, don't even get me started.
I haven't even done my review yet. I put them off. I'm probably do it tomorrow.
Oh, I'm putting off my 2-parter review right now. Like it's just, I need a respite.
Yeah, well, let's just move the conversation away from all things Star Trek Discovery when we don't have to deal with it.
Yep.
And move on with the super chats. Danny Boy says, I tried to get HBO Max using my VPN. Great. Just one problem. HBO Max won't accept non-US registered bank/credit cards. Actually, there's a way around that. Well, we have to research it and maybe we'll do a video about it. But there's a way around it. And then we got 4 consecutive super stickers from Nordron Blithers, who sent us like a cup with a dinosaur or something like. Oh yeah, there's like a dinosaur animal creature giving us a cup. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And Master Clockwork says, love Mark Hamill, and while I'd rather they got away from this era, I don't mind a recast as long as they keep true to the character of Luke Skywalker. Yeah, there you go. And J. Pat says, Dave Filoni doesn't know about Star Wars canon. He only knows about Dave Filoni canon. The contradictions he creates divide EU fans and casual fans. Yeah, but not as much as Kathleen Kennedy did in her movies, right? At least that's my theory, at least. And Legalize Adulthood says for $25. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Any news about Foundation on Apple TV? I'm worried it's going to be trash since we haven't heard anything about it. I've seen the trailer, but beyond that, I know nothing. Gary?
I know nothing either. It's probably going to be gender swap woke garbage.
It's David S. Goyer. I'll leave it there.
Oh,
that's enough.
Crap. I was about to say something else. But yeah.
David S. Goyer and Akiva Goldman and Alex Kurtzman, all from the same school of really schlocky bad writing. David S. Goyer got to attach himself to Nolan for a little while. Anything he's done outside of Nolan,
he had one day on Dark City, and he's been writing that ever since.
Yeah. I
feel the need to remind people at every turn that David S. Goyer wrote Demonic Toys.
No, he's been decent here and there. I'm not.
I didn't say that was a good thing.
I know, but he did write Demonic Toys. But there are defenders out there, and I can't argue their facts that he has some decent moments, but his track record overall, his quality, his reputation is not something that I have confidence in.
I can argue them. Everything that he has written that is decent is when he is helmed by a great director who'll tell him what to do. Like Chris Nolan. When he writes for Chris Nolan, he writes good. But that's because Chris Nolan tells him what to do. And when he's left to his own devices, yeah, the results are different, let's say.
Yeah, I would say with like Blade Trinity, the amount of unnecessary swearing in that film is just basically Nolan not knowing what the heck to say and for any of his characters. It's like there's way more swearing in this than I recall in both previous Blade movies combined. And I'm not fine. I'm fine with swearing normally. Just if it becomes gratuitous to the point where it loses its impact,
You got to be consistent in your universe too.
Yeah.
Oh, and the whole story behind the scenes on that one.
It's hysterical.
You hear me, Star Trek?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I knew his lawyer, one of Wesley Snipes' lawyers, and all the BS that was going on behind the scenes, and Goyer was always ratting Wesley Snipes out to the bosses, maybe forgetting that Wesley Snipes was a producer on that film and helped fund a lot of it, and he had power, he had creative, control over the character, so that the whole thing where he refused to come out of his trailer was true, but it was because of Goyer was sowing the seeds of dissent against him from day one on that film, because he's such a little backstabbing so-and-so. I'll just say so-and-so.
Yeah, there you go. And moving on from there, we got consecutive super stickers from M. Tax Shark and Adrian Nazaruk, sending us a thumbs up and a little foxy in that order. So thank you so much. And Space Monkey 0899 says, "You guys ever replace my cable television? You're more entertaining." Oh, thank you. And on that note, Willie Woodwood also says for $10, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm with that other guy. You truly are legit, because you give creatives like me hope in trying to make my stuff. Why you guys aren't mainstream is a mystery, but sort of glad you're not. Oh, well, thank you. As long as we can make a difference, then that's all that matters to me, at least.
Yeah, we like skirting the edge between mainstream and not mainstream, the Midnight's edge.
I'm sure Gary feels the same way.
Absolutely. I do not want to be mainstream ever. No desire. So I like it where I am. I mean, it sucks. Sometimes there's some creatives I'd love to talk to and they would never give me the time of day, but it's easier for me to be free. And that's why it's tough with, the Orville. I feel compromised, and like The Boys, that was the hardest thing, man, criticizing The Boys, because my friend worked on it. And I hope he's still my friend. We haven't talked since, but I hope we are. I think we are. He still follows me on Twitter. So,
well, there's that. And yeah, well, we know all about that. Tom, why don't you tell about the exact quote you told me that we got when we approached someone, let's say, affiliated with Disney for an interview?
No, they're a bunch of misogynistic pigs. I think it was the quote.
You call them pig.
So yeah, and but not being mainstream mean that you don't get access to everything, and you know what? That's perfectly fine, because the interviews that we can't get because of where we stand, I'd rather not have. So it's simple as that. And Harley Rogers says, Ahsoka beat Maul, Rey beat Kylo, Luke and Palpatine, Leia beat Luke, girl beats Boba Fett. Why does Disney hate men? Well, we mentioned that before, and yeah, it is what it is. And Mihon says, for another Swedish 50 krona, thank you so much, tack så mycket. These shows are a reason to get up on Mondays. Now, I won't force Andre to butcher Swedish, but have you seen the documentary My Best Fiend? Now, I love that documentary, so I've seen it. I have it on DVD right here. I want to ask you guys, Gary and Script and Tom, have you seen My Best Fiend?
Heard of it, haven't seen it.
No, I have not seen it.
Script?
No, I have not seen it. I did hear about it when I was in film school, and my teacher that week was supposed to show it to us, but he was out sick, and we ended up having to audit that class, so I never got a chance.
Guys,
But,
you have to see it. It is Werner Herzog's documentary on what's his name?
well, it's about
Klaus Kinski.
yes, Klaus Kinski, yes.
Documentary on Klaus Kinski, original title Mein liebster Fiend, or Mein Feind, maybe it is in German, but anyway, so yeah, do check that out. It's amazing. It's better than Grizzly Man, so yeah, highly recommended. And 200 Watt Studio says BBC Moronic, Top Gear gone cause of a steak dinner. And BK0271 says Tom Baker and K9, the robot dog, are my favorite doctor. And Bogue says, for 20 Mexican dollars, thank you so much, will you guys review Netflix Yu Yu Hakusho adaptation? Nerdrotic, do you have any plans of reviewing Yu Yu Hakusho?
No plans, but I generally don't have any plans, so you never know.
As for me, as you could probably tell from my pronunciation, I've never heard of it. And no, I have no plans for that very same reason. And Mr. Londell's Groovy Movie says, I'll stick with the David Niven rendition, evidently of Around the World in 80 Days. And Tipsy Rhino says, it would have been cool if Boba was there when Luke arrived. They could have exchanged polite jabs. I don't know how polite that would have been, but yeah. And here's one for you, Gary. The gardening snail of living, and I can't see the rest, says, Silmarillion fan here. Orcs were once elves, kidnapped by the Morgoth, I believed, during the younger days, and twisted till they became the original orcs. That sounds about right, Gary, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, yeah, that sounds right. And they even mentioned that in the films. But as far as like appearance and their separations from goblins, and it's my belief that there was no difference between goblins and orcs. They were just they were the same thing called. That's what just people identified it. And the films made them a little more separate. And then I believe Tolkien made them a little more separate. Goblins are a little smaller in stature, orcs, and then there's the Uruk-hai, of course. But yes, they were a creation of evil. They were corrupted elves. And then maybe if they show that would be kind of cool. I mean, it's horrific. There's horrific stories in this, like the Nine, the Nazgul. Those were, I mean, not all of those guys were bad guys. And you are a slave to Sauron's will at all times. That's your entire existence is to work for him. Even if you, I mean, I don't know if they've that's something I would like to see explored. You know, do they still have their free will? Do they not? That would be interesting. That there's stuff you can do that would be awesome to see if they did it right.
That actually does sound really interesting. It would be brilliant to see that actually. And then we have Alpha Omega Records, who says, for 10 British pounds, so thank you for the support, plus a follow-up to a chat of 5 saying, forgive me, not into drama, but seeing as this crosses over, do any of you know why Mr. H seems bitter over our brilliant boys Gary and Doomcock? H is slowing to a crawl, seems so silly. And then he says, oh, and it's not just Gary and Doomcock, H is strange with its others as well. Tell him off and to get back down to earth. I'm not going to get too much into that. I'm not going to get any involved in any like drama and squabbles, but I will say that any questions that you have for Mr. H, direct to him, and then I'm sure he can let you in on whatever disagreements he may have with anyone.
And yeah, I don't know any of that is true. So
I think that may be a little bit out of context.
I'm not aware of any. That's all. I'm not aware of any.
Right. Yeah.
So as you see, it's not anything very dramatic. So, but yeah, any questions you might have, take it with him. Then the Roger Haynes says, speaking of stuntmen, what's the average retirement gig retirement age for that gig anyway? Script, you have an answer for that?
When you're too injured to keep doing it. That's technically the retirement age. I know some stuntmen who the industry just kind of made them retired because of some of the special effects that they're able to do and some of the things, especially some drivers who are really, really amazing stunt drivers. They don't get to work that often as much anymore because they like to do all the stuff with a computer, and they can these days. So yeah, like traditionally, it was when you couldn't do it physically do it anymore safely. That's when you retired. So there were some guys up into their 60s and some in their 70s that were, if they weren't physically there, they were organizing or guiding younger guys to do their stuff. So
right, and then some of them became directors or head of their own
stunt studio, which like they just trained other guys and basically said, this is how you fall down a flight of stairs and not break your neck, and here's how you fall down a flight of stairs, not break your neck, but make people think you broke your neck. Like lots of cool stuff. It's a very beautiful art form that I wish could be maintained, and also because it was getting better with every few years. Other stunt guys would come in and be like, hey, I can actually do this and not actually hurt myself now. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And Culture Casino says Max Lloyd Jones was the actor that played Luke in the season finale, posting a video about today. Yes, so everyone go and check out Culture Casino's video on that topic. And KC says, I would love a series with a Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker thinking back on post-Jedi events with Sebastian in the lead. How about you? Well, yeah, we kind of answered that before, didn't we? We'd be okay with Sebastian Stan taking over. Wouldn't be Gary.
Mark Hamill in it, kind of reminiscing. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Heck, make him a Force ghost like 300 years into the future, so we don't know when he dies. And tell the story that way.
Yeah, better yet. And Rebecca Gold says, great show, lads. Midnight's Edge rocks. Oh, thank you. And Limak Ajax says, so what's up with Kas Anwar on The Expanse? I have no clue. Gary, what's up with Kas Anwar on The Expanse?
He's leaving in season after the season, which is kind of devastating because he's a big part of it. Apparently he had some Me Too allegations. I've never seen or heard the details of it, so we don't know if it was something legit or if it was he hit on a woman at a bar. I mean, which can be a Me Too allegation these days. I think the guy's kind of a player, like most actors are, and maybe flirted with the wrong person, and it cost him his job. And it's sad because that's the only negative thing I have ever heard from that show, ever.
That's messed up, but yeah. And then we have Mr. Tickletrunk saying, it's really disheartening people talk like that about you guys. If there was a misogynist around here, I think they'd be instantly kicked the hell out. Yes, absolutely. And Diego Flores says, goblins are more mountain and deep dwellers. That is why I remember correctly, the word came from dwarfish, while orc came from either Elven or Black Numenor dialect, still the same. Also, orcs serve Sauron directly.
Yep.
And with that, we are caught up. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, Gary, for joining us. It's been an absolute blast, and so says Ian Slater, who says this chat is therapy session for watching STD.
Yeah, and I really want to thank Gary for going above and beyond, because we never expected to go 3 hours. Like 90 minutes is generally what we go. So thank you so much for your time, and I know it's something you don't have a lot of, so I appreciate that.
No problem. It was fun. Had a blast. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's an honor, as always.
It's an honor to have you.
Honor to have you, yes.
And same with Griff Doctor. We're always grateful to have you join us and get your insights.
Yeah, it's always like a pure pleasure just to be able to join in with you gentlemen on these types of topics and, get myself out of the weird headspace of normal Hollywood. It's very helpful. Thank you.
And so with that, for everyone that aren't subscribed to Gary already, that's probably not many, but if you're not, then go and check out Nerdrotic right away. It's one of the best channels that there is. And with that, thanks for joining us.